Hello and welcome to AnimEH, the Canadian-flavored anime podcast. My name is Justin Ashley, and joining me is my esteemed co-host, Johnny Liscombe.
It's good to be back.
It's good to be back, indeed. This is podcast number 1 for 2024.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin and I just got recently watched out of the way. So he got the inaugural 2024. He took the coveted first podcast of the year. Yeah, he's taken the lead. So we have to top that podcast, which literally just came out today, actually, because today's Saturday. We're filming this.
Well, I haven't watched it yet, but I will do my best to top it.
Let me tell you, the quality of recently watched has not dipped. It has only gotten better. The cold weather has forced Kevin and I to stay inside and do nothing but watch movies and TV shows. So we had fuckloads to talk about. And we were overdue because Mark and I kind of fucking hijacked that podcast for a month or two.
Yeah.
And then it got chaotic around December. We didn't film in December? I don't remember.
We didn't get around to it, no.
No, it was just too chaotic. There was just too much shit going on.
Yeah, it's like we both had stuff come up whenever we would be prepared to plan it.
Right.
And it didn't follow through.
It didn't materialize. We are here to do our season recap. And by season, we're referring, of course, to spring, summer, fall, winter. And we are now going to be talking about fall 2023. And I've already had a few people ask me about this, a few people that have watched the show and talked to me about it after, and they're like, why are you talking about fall after, long after the fall season? It's because...
Can't talk about it before it comes out.
Because we haven't... Exactly. But I do find that something that I've noticed a lot of anime channels do, on YouTube and shit, is they will talk about the shows as they're coming out. They're like, oh, fall anime 2023, and it's the first 2 weeks into the fall block, they're talking about all the shows that are out. But it's they have nothing to talk about. They're basically just giving the synopsis of the anime and showing you the trailer, the public trailer. It's that's not really it's not really a review or anything, you know?
It's just public knowledge.
Right. It's in order for us, if you want us to actually thoroughly talk about the shows that came out and give a genuine review on this, we actually have to watch the shit.
Yeah,
you
got to put in the time.
Right. And I've got down here, so fall 2023 is typically end of September to end of December. Yeah. So we're maybe a few weeks late filming this, but not really. It's the season just ended. It's now we're in the winter season. When that ends, the beginning of the spring season, we will talk about the winter season that just passed. So in case you're wondering why these guys take so long to talk about the blocks, it's we're waiting for it to pass. We're not going to... This isn't a preview podcast. We're talking about shit that we watched during that block of programming.
Yeah, exactly. We're putting in the work so you don't have to.
No, literally. It's we're reflecting on the shit that we just watched in the season that just passed to give you possible recommendations that maybe you missed or just weren't on your radar,
Or maybe some stuff that was on your radar and maybe you should miss.
Exactly. Things to take off your list. Yeah, we're also in the more so me, I'm definitely in the business of taking things off your list.
Well, I'm hoping I can change that with this episode, so.
I'm very curious, just to reiterate, we have no idea what the other person watched. We don't communicate about this. We don't plan this. John and I are going to go back and forth. We're each going to go over stuff that we individually watched. So this is things that you watched during that block and things that I watched during that block, both good and bad. It's just whatever we happen to watch. And we have yet to have any crossover.
Well, we did in our first episode.
Happened. What did we both watch?
It was Hell's Paradise and Mashal.
Right. Oh, right. And Mashal. Okay. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. Don't listen to me.
But it hasn't happened since.
Right. Yeah, you're right. Right. It hasn't happened in 3 episodes. So there you go.
Yeah, we're hoping for 2 to 3 crossover anime here.
How many do you got and how many picks you got on your list?
I have 5.
I have 8, so I have a lot to talk about here. But I'm not going to try. I'm going to try not to dwell too much on each one individually. Of course, I'm saying that, and I have a feeling I'm going to dwell a lot on each one individually. Don't think we have anything else. Oh, we're adding something new to the format. So generally at the end of each episode, we each go over our respective lists of what we talked about, just as a reminder, what we liked, what we didn't like. We're adding something new this time. We are each going to give our top pick, meaning what was our favorite thing that we watched during that block of programming during that season, our runner-up, so that's basically our number 2, our silver medal, if you will, and then our bottom pick, so our least favorite thing. Now, maybe everything we watched we liked, so it doesn't necessarily mean the bottom pick sucks. I can tell you right now, for me, the bottom pick's going to suck, without a doubt, because I guarantee that. But for you, maybe, because you tend to like a lot more than I do, maybe your bottom pick doesn't necessarily mean it sucked, just might mean whatever you like the least.
Well, I mean, this time it's kind of going to suck.
Oh, it's definitely going to? Okay, all right. Early teaser. All right, without further ado, if you don't mind, I would like to kick things off.
Hey, you've got more than me. I'd be happy for you to go first.
Okay, I'm starting off with, I've got a few on my list that people are going to be like, that's not an anime, it wasn't made in Japan. Like, there's going to be a few. Okay, so my number 1 here I got, and this is in no particular order here, folks. It doesn't mean like, oh, this is the like quality. This is just what I have down here. I watched Castlevania Nocturne.
That one was on my watch list, but I haven't gotten around to it yet. So I'm curious to hear what you have to say.
Have you watched the original Castlevania anime
absolutely.
on Netflix? And did you like it?
I loved it.
Okay. I think it's phenomenal. Like the original. I really liked it. It had problems, but I swear that show got better every season.
Oh, absolutely.
And to me, that ending is like perfect. Just perfect. But we're not here to talk about the original anime. The original anime like literally just ended, I think 2 years ago. It got 4 seasons. It tells the story of Trevor Belmont, Sypha Belnades. That's like, what are they called? Seers?
I believe so.
I think they're basically the mages.
Yeah.
They're like magicians, like not magicians. They're magic users, right? And Alucard, who is the son of Dracula. And it is a hyper-violent, action-packed, adventure, horror, gothic, kick-ass good time. It's a lot of fun, the original show. They announced after, which it truly was a miracle that show got a full like run. I really thought, because the first season was a little janky. Second season improved it, but I didn't know, like Netflix, they don't reveal their ratings or anything. It's all fucking secretive, so nobody knows how well certain shows did or didn't do. And Netflix has a habit of canceling things, even though they were like critically well acclaimed. They're like, this didn't make enough money. This cost too much. Fuck it, cancel it.
You know, there's nothing worse than when they do that.
Right.
It's only the good shows.
I thought for sure, I was like, this is going to get canceled after 2 seasons or 1 season. I'm like, it's never going to get more, By the grace of God, it managed to get a full run. It has 4 seasons. Each season gets better, and it actually has a series finale. And then shockingly, they announce Castlevania Nocturne, a sequel series that takes place way into the future. So the Castlevania video games, in case you're not familiar with them, they always focus on, generally, a member of the Belmont clan, the Belmont family, who is a family that is basically, to dumb it down, a family of vampire hunters / monster killers.
Yeah, that about sums it up.
And every video game the video game series jumps all over the timeline. It's like some take place in like 1800s, some are 1900s, some are 1700s, some are in like France, and some are in Europe, some are like, it's all over the world, all over the timelines. You're always focusing on a new member of the clan. So like, it's kind of perfect to adapt because they can kind of just pick and choose from any of those timelines.
Yeah, they can go from anywhere.
Right. So the first anime focused on the Trevor Belmont, which is basically Castlevania 3 for the original Nintendo. That is the timeline, which is actually a prequel video game, if I'm not mistaken. It takes place before Castlevania 1 and 2, which follows Simon Belmont. Simon Belmont, who is I don't quote me on all this because there's so much fucking lore. If you want to know all this shit, if you want it 100% accurate, read a fucking wiki. Don't get your information out of one of the guys from an anime podcast.
I'm going to take it as gospel.
You take it as gospel. But I believe Simon Belmont is one of the descendants of, because in spoilers, in Castlevania, Sypha and Trevor end up becoming an item and falling in love, and they have children. Simon, I believe, is one of the descendants of that lineage. So Simon Belmont possesses the seer magic abilities as well as the natural Belmont. Like, Belmonts basically have some sort of meta-human ability that gives them like superhuman, they're like Captain America. Like, they're like super soldiers. They can jump unnaturally high, and they have unnatural recovery, unnatural strength, that kind of shit.
They're on natural steroids.
Basically. And because the Sypha, the seer bloodline's in there, they also have magical capabilities. Some Belmonts can access one or the other more, or less. So some of them can't really access their magic lineage. Some of them are more like just fighters and scrappers, and some of them are the opposite. They're more magic users. They're not very good with like the fighting ability. Simon, from the original video game, I believe was a descendant of the two of them, so he could come from both worlds. But this does not focus on Simon Belmont, but a not so distant descendant of Simon Belmont, Richter Belmont. So this is the story of Richter Belmont. This adapts basically two video games. It adapts Castlevania Rondo of Blood, which was on the kind of Super Nintendo and also the PC, the Japanese PC engine. It has a whole weird history of ports. Look that up if you want more info on that. But it adapts Rondo of Blood and the critically acclaimed Symphony of the Night. Are you familiar with that game?
Not at all. I actually only know Richter. This is kind of a crime, to be honest, from Smash Bros.
I had a feeling you were going to say it. I was like, let me guess.
I have the
palette
amiibo.
swap? Yeah. Isn't it Simon and Richter?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're in Smash Bros. That's right. Yeah, because they're two of the more recognizable characters in the series. Simon being from Castlevania 1 and 2, and Richter being from Symphony of the Night, which is debatably the best entry in the entire series, right?
Yeah.
So this is way off into the future, past the timeline in the original Castlevania anime, focusing on Richter Belmont, who is a descendant of both Trevor and Sypha from the original, so that means he can use magic as well as just being a badass Belmont. Richter he's not, Trevor is kind of like the gruff veteran, I've seen and done it all, and I'm just kind of lost my way. Richter is basically like the baby bird. He hasn't quite tapped into his full potential. He's a little lost. His mother dies right before his eyes at a very young age. It kind of scars him a bit. His mother, who is a vampire hunter and she kicks fucking ass, she gets killed by a powerful vampire named Orlox, who's one of the best villains in this new series. And he's like this ancient, I think he's like an Aztec vampire or something. He's got a really cool fucking design.
Fascinating.
You know how like remember in the original anime, all the villains look so they had great character designs.
Yeah.
Like Castlevania in general, because it's all horror gothic theme. The villain and character designs are always so fucking good. It continues in this. And Richter is a little lost. Doesn't really have any specific direction. Like, he knows the weight of his clan and his bloodline, but he doesn't really know what to do with that. He ends up getting taken in by a woman named Tara and her daughter Maria, both of whom are magic users. Tara, I believe, is from the same order as Sypha. So, like, she is one of the seers or whatever, so she has, like, the magic. Basically, she can do, like, fire and ice abilities, generate those and manipulate them. Maria, her magic's kind of weird. She summons familiars. Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, like animals.
Animals, right. Yeah, so she summons, like, a bird and, like, I don't know, A bunny. I might be making that up. I know she summons a bird.
Summon anything cool, like maybe a wolf?
Nope. No. Never anything cool. Always lame animals. But
just like a mouse or something?
She summons just like animals. That's like her main form of combat. And the plot of this is extremely convoluted. And this is one of my first complaints. I found it it just was a little all over the board, and it's not a clear, like, there wasn't a clear plot. I found in the original anime, it was very like, first couple seasons are very straightforward. Get the band together, we're going to stop Dracula. That's the plot. Then it becomes a little bit more convoluted after Dracula's killed the first time. Then it becomes more of a stop Dracula from being resurrected / stop the vampire army trying to take over the world. This new series, it's like, I don't know, it's just like the plot is very, it's a bit of a mess. It's not really straightforward. So we've got these characters, Richter, Maria, and Richter's adopted mother Tara, and Maria's actual mother Tara. And they're like living kind of a quiet life in the countryside. Sorry, this takes place in late 1700s France, if that means anything to you, whatever. I'm not good with timelines. Like, I'm not good with historical, like, you tell me like 1700s, 1800s, I'm like, what was the difference? How did they look different? I can't answer that.
I wasn't alive then. I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. It's just like, okay, whatever. It's 1700 or late 1700s France. It's during like the French Revolution times, which was a huge moment of the history of that country.
Yeah, that paints a bit of a clearer picture in my head.
Kind of. It's just like a moment of turmoil. Basically, where like the rich and the poor are about to tear each other apart, and like lines are about to be drawn. And then vampires get involved, specifically the new villain, which is like the replacement of Dracula. It's like Elizabeth Bathory. It's supposed to be a play on the actual historical figure Elizabeth Bathory, who is this like really fucked up historical figure that bathed in like virgin's blood and shit like that.
Oh, I've heard about that.
Oh, you actually have?
I have, yeah.
Yeah, this is like a heinous like actual figure, but like they make up this fictional character, Elizabeth Bathory, and she's like this god tier powered vampire, and she's trying to rally all the vampires. She wants to be the queen of the vampires, and her plan is she's somehow going to get some ability that will allow her to block out the sun permanently. Meaning it would be eternal nighttime.
Which would explain the name Nocturne.
Yeah. And I mean, that is a plot that has been in many vampire lore stories of like the eternal night and, that kind of shit. I mean, it's a fun romantic idea because like obviously vampires would want that because then they could walk around all the time. They wouldn't be relegated to just come out during the night. Hence night creatures and all that shit.
Eliminate their largest weakness.
Right. So she is trying. Sorry, I'm picking off a piece of thread off me as I'm talking to you. Very, very professional here. So that's her plan. She's like one of the main antagonists, but there's several other like minor antagonists. And basically, this is where it gets like, okay, what the fuck? So we've got the three characters. They're like held up in this country home. Then all of a sudden we get two new characters show up. There's Annette, who was like, she's another magic user, and her friend, who I believe was also another magic user. I don't remember his ability. And Annette was like a former African slave. And she like grew up on a plantation until her like abilities awoken. And then she escaped that. And they're there to seek Richter Belmont. I don't remember what the reason was, but basically this whole group of like 5 people then becomes a team. And they uncover this plot of this secret vampire society who's like working with the church, and all of this is to bring about the eternal night, and they're trying to stop it. See, like it just becomes a little too like, okay, we've got this character and that character, and every episode kind of jumps around. It's like not very nice and linear. It's not very straightforward. It's like, I think episode 3 is like half the episode is just Annette's backstory. Like the pacing is all off on this show, unfortunately. Like, I would very much compare it to, do you remember season 1 of Castlevania?
I do.
It was a little bit of a mess.
I'll be honest with you. Season 1 didn't really pique my interest.
That's how I feel about Nocturne. Season 1 didn't really pique my interest. You nailed it on the head. It's got, okay, so to its credit, if you like the original Castlevania anime, you're getting the same quality. So the animation, fucking gorgeous. The fights are fun, like phonetic. They're visual like eye candy.
Honestly, those fights are all you need.
They're really, and that's what will keep you watching. Is the fights are fantastic. They're very fluid, like great animation, great choreography. The voice acting is fantastic. Same level of quality as the original anime. Really good. It's just that the fucking pacing is just off. It's not there. Like, it's just a little janky. It's not quite there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they don't have the elements, and they don't really have the core story yet. Like, it feels very rudderless. Like, they're just kind of spinning in place. It's like they've got villains and they have heroes. They just don't quite know how they work together, and I just don't really know anybody's motivation. It's like everybody's just kind of everyone's kind of just going and doing things and reacting to situations as they happen.
Just kind of like, we have to do this together because we have to.
Yeah, like it just, you just don't get a nice clear path on anybody. Richter also Richter and Maria are nowhere near as interesting as Sypha and Trevor. I'm hoping they can fix that with season 2. I'm hoping they can make them more interesting. Obviously, they're going to have to, because Richter Belmont is one of the most popular of the Belmont clan. Like, that's one of the most popular characters in the entirety of the franchise. So, like, they're going to have to really figure this out. I'd be surprised if they couldn't, because they have so much to work with. I actually had more interest. So, spoiler, at one point another Belmont shows up. I'm not going to name drop him. I thought he was more interesting than Richter. And I was like, please, let's just follow this guy from now on, because he was fucking awesome. And yeah, so that's a problem. We need to figure that out.
Maybe that Richter can take, or not Richter, sorry.
The other Belmont?
The other Belmont can take Richter under his wing and make him cool.
Well, so that's actually what they do, but I still wanted to follow that other Belmont more. Yeah. but yeah, honestly, I'm still going to recommend it. It's a good time. If you want fun, action, hyper-violent, R-rated anime that focuses on gothic horror and fighting and violence and action, fucking check it out. Castlevania Nocturne, it's good. And it didn't get canceled. It's getting another season. So,
well, if it's anything like the original, it'll get better with every season.
Exactly. It's like I enjoyed watching it. It's just it's not there yet. It was I think it's a rough first season personally. I think it's
once they get the story established, it'll take off.
I feel like they try to dump the pacing's just all off. They try to front load too much bullshit. They try to force every character's bio down your throat immediately, and it's like, pace that out, guys. We'll get to know the character. You don't got to give us every piece of their fucking history right off the bat. We don't need to know everything immediately. Show, don't tell. Don't just have characters give us diatribes of their long sordid backstory, like that. So it's clunky. It's clunky, but they'll get there.
Yeah.
They'll get there. So.
Nah, I actually had a question pop into my head.
Fuck, yeah, go for it.
But, so when his mom died, did he know about the vampires and shit? Or his introduction?
No. I think he knew that his mom was a vampire hunter and all that shit. I don't know. I'm pretty certain he knew. I don't think it was just a shock thing. Yeah.
Okay. Because
he inherits the vampire killer, which, if you don't know your Castlevania lore, that's their whip they all use. It's the same, supposedly the same whip, whatever. And it's like the Belmont whip that gets passed down from... So literally the one that Trevor would have used in the original show, that's the same one that Richter uses.
That's cool enough for me.
Yeah, it's just one of those things that always gets passed down along the Belmont clan. So yeah, he inherits the vampire killer. Yeah, okay. He just can't use his abilities to their full potential. I see, that sounds on paper, that's awesome. It's the opposite of Trevor. Trevor is basically almost peak skills at the beginning of the series. He doesn't really need to improve much by the end of the series. It's more he improves himself, not his abilities. Richter is the exact opposite. Richter is he's like a fresh newborn. He has so much to improve on his abilities. You'd think that there's so much you can do with that. It's fucking shonen, man. It's shonen. Yeah. It writes itself. but it just doesn't quite work. It's clunky. He doesn't have like they didn't pace it right where it feels like a natural progression where you get to see him slowly improve. It's like he sucks, and then all of a sudden he just gets like a massive power boost because it feels cheap. Like it's not paced out properly. They need to take a lesson from Shonen and pace it out better.
Well,
like the masters of power.
So there's an issue that I have with Shonen specifically.
Yes.
Is when they give the characters a power-up, and then it's like a couple episodes later, there's this new enemy, and all of a sudden that power-up is worthless.
Or they forget they had a power-up.
Exactly.
That's the biggest sin. If you write a character with an ability, they should never forget that ability. That should never be a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the biggest sin is like, oh, we have all these characters, they have elaborate abilities, and then characters forget things they can and can't do themselves. Like, that would never happen, you know? Like, if you could jump 10 stories, you suddenly going to forget you can jump 10 stories?
Maybe I hit my head rolling out of bed in the morning.
Exactly, yeah. So there's my first pick. I'm going to give you one more, and then I'm going to switch to you, just because I have a few more picks. So
yeah, no problem.
That way we get through mine a little bit faster. Okay, my next pick here, another show I watched. I think this one was technically in the summer. So whatever, I'm kind of cheating. I think it was like a summer release, but whatever. You're getting it anyways. Undead Murder Farce.
This one was actually on my watch list for the summer. I just didn't get around to it.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you confirm. I was a summer pick. I don't know what the fuck to make of this show. I barely have anything to say. I couldn't get past the first episode.
That bad.
Here's the thing. Okay, so let me just tell you what sucks about it. So like the plot is a fucking mess. It starts off with this guy Suguru, which is the fucking Mashal looking fucking guy right here, which look
he really does look like he's from
and guess what, he acts like Mashal. Like he has his personality is just like this, always talks monotone and serious.
I thought it was a push.
He's not quite, because like Mashal is like comedically, has no personality.
Yeah.
I'm just saying this guy is just like bland and morose and depressed and just like basically just like has no, like there's no excitement level. He's always at like a fucking 5. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guy's like just permanently on Valium. Like he just he's not excitable at all. It just acts very like emotionless and like generic.
That feels very out of place. Like I watched the trailer. Like that was all I saw.
Right.
And like based on that trailer, it feels like it doesn't belong.
So I didn't know anything about it. I just saw the title and I was like, okay. I'm like, that's a crazy title. I'm like, I like weird things. I'm like, let's give this a shot. This could be awesome. So Suguru, the Mashal looking guy, he is, it starts off with him in like some sort of circus, some sort of like freak show. And he is a performer that fights. Okay, so this takes place in an alternate version of reality where humans coexist with monsters. So there's Oni, which are like, like demon, like
Japanese demons.
Yeah, and there's also like yokai, which are like evil spirits or whatever. And then there's also like vampires, there's werewolves, like all supernatural exist in this world, okay? And it's like alternate, I think it's supposed to be like the end of the 1800s, like early 1900s. It's like early industrialized civilization, okay?
Okay.
He's in some sort of carnival. This is in Japan. And it's like a freak show, and he fights demons to the death. Because he is a half-breed. So he is half Oni, half human. Because someone injected him with Oni blood, making him like a hybrid. That's why he has those weird like blue streaks.
Okay.
And it basically makes him like a meta-human, where he's got like, super...
Like enhanced strength and whatnot.
Speed and all that shit. He doesn't have any specific special abilities. He basically is just like a Captain America. I always use Captain America because Captain America is such a generic, like, he's just a superhuman, basically.
Yeah.
It's like enhanced reflexes, enhanced speed, enhanced strength. It's as simple as basic of an upgrade as you can get, right?
Yeah.
So he's basic metahuman. He's in this freak show, and then he meets, he's also, like, I think he's called, like, people refer to him as Oni Slayer. So, like, in his spare time, people will hire him to kill monsters, okay? For him to make money. he doesn't really have any direction. He doesn't really have any purpose. There's no like greater cause or anything. He's basically just this depressed, morose fucking guy. He then meets Aya Rindo, who, if you look at the poster, is that fucking the head in the birdcage. Okay. And she, just like in the poster there, is accompanied by this like maid that literally is like in a like cosplay like French maid outfit. And she also, of course, has like meta-human abilities or whatever. She's like a superhuman, like super speed and like, you know, super strong and super fast and all this shit.
Is she just like a servant to the chick?
She's like a servant / bodyguard, basically. Okay. And she's like she's generico, like doesn't show emotions and just like, you know, a kind of like an Aya. Is it Aya? Who's the Yor? It's kind of like a Yor Folger from like Spy Family. Spy Family. I was gonna say Spy X Spy. I was thinking of Spy versus Spy. Remember that old like like that old cartoon. And Aya, who is literally a decapitated head in like a gold bird cage, like a comedic cartoon gold bird cage, wants to enlist him wants to enlist his help to find a way to kill her, because she is immortal and she's lived for like almost 1,000 years, and she wants to die because this is my first problem with the show. They dump so much exposition in this first episode. This is a dialogue fucking heavy show. It's just literally like, yes, I am this because of this, and you are this because of that. And in case you didn't know, this is because of this historical reason. And then in case you didn't know, that is that because of that. And that person also will do that. And then this would trigger that, it's like so dialogue heavy where it's literally, she's like, you are a half-breed. I knew this because of that. What that means is this: a half-breed is somebody that can do this or do that. And Oni is like literally, she's like defining all the shit in the show. It's like, that's not how you do that.
Just take all of this information and absorb none of it.
Right. It's like, no, animes obviously are always going to introduce their own terminology and shit, but generally the way you do it is you slow roll it over the course of the show, where by context, we figure out what you mean by, I don't know, Oni or whatever the fuck the term is. You know what I mean? Like Bankai. We're going to fucking figure it out. You know, You don't have to front load all the terms right off the bat and go this and this and this and this and this. And so like she's an immortal, and the way she explains it is like she was attacked by a half-breed like the main character Suguru. So she needs his help to try to find her killer who attacked her, but because she was attacked by a half-breed, she can't heal. Like, it's so fucking convoluted and confusing. I hated the first episode. I was like, this fucking sucks. I'm not watching this anymore. I'm like, none of the characters are interesting. I don't really understand the plot. I don't get where we're going. The pacing's off. The tone sucks. It's not fun. It's like way too over serious. I never watched past the first episode. While doing my notes for the show, I had to refresh my mind. I'm like, what the fuck was this show? And then I look up the show and I see like things from the show, and I'm like, Sherlock Holmes is in the show. Werewolves are in the show. The second episode is about vampires. I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, where was all this madness in the first episode? I didn't see any of this shit. So I look up more into it. The first episode is a god-awful pilot, because apparently it's nothing like the rest of the series. The series, I didn't know what the fuck the series was, because the first episode was a fucking mess. The series is a detective mystery show where every few episodes is a new mystery. That's what the show turns into.
Yeah.
The show turns into Suguru and Aya, the severed head in the cage, going around Europe while looking for this mysterious figure that is connected to both of their pasts. It's like this mysterious guy with a cane that has M on the cane, which I'm going to guess is Moriarty from like the Sherlock Holmes like things.
Yeah.
And they're just going around solving mysteries, and they end up encountering like all of the fictional like historical figures you can think of, like Sherlock Holmes, the Phantom of the Opera is in this, like Count Dracula's reference. Like, all these fictional beings are all in this world, and they run into them. So I'm definitely giving this a second chance now, because maybe it was just a shitty pilot, and it was getting really good reviews. Like, this is reviewed well. So, but a fucking god awful pilot. I don't know what to make of it. The pilot apparently is nothing like the actual show. So I don't know what the fuck. Like, dude, what did you know of this show? Like, I never watched the trailer.
So in the trailer, they do kind of cover that there is like some sort of detective element to it. But I mean, it's not quite fresh in my mind because it's been months.
Yeah,
but,
it's the summer, yeah.
I know there were monsters. I know Sherlock Holmes was in it.
It's just like okay.
That was
caught
in the
me off
trailer.
guard.
I remember seeing a cane with the letter M.
Yeah.
And that's about all I remember from it. Just some sort of monster detective thing. And then there was the chick with her head in a birdcage. I don't know.
I'm going to have to give this another shot because apparently also like it gets like the tone is more like fun and like tongue in cheek.
Yeah.
But the first episode is not like that at all. It's bland and generic and boring.
Well, that's actually my reason for my 3-episode rule. So whether I like an anime or not, I watch the first 3 episodes because I've had so many cases where I watch like 2 and it's just boring. It's not keeping my attention.
Yeah.
And then like I talk to someone about it. I'm like, oh, this was garbage. And they go, oh, dude, episode 3 is where it picks up.
Right.
And then I go back, I rewatch it. First 2 episodes still suck. But I get to that third one and it's like a totally new anime.
Sometimes pilots are just rough. I think this is just an example where the pilot sucked shit. And that's not a terrible rule. Like I have a 30-minute rule, which I think I've told you this before, my 30-minute rule. For TV shows, I don't really have a rule set in stone. I kind of just gauge it by my interest. So it's like, if I'm really not digging it, I won't make it past the first episode. But I generally try to go a couple because exactly like you said, pilots can suck.
Yeah.
Shows can, the first episode's really rough and then they tweak it and it becomes something else. So what this sounds like might be interesting to me, where it's like, it's a mystery show involving fictional characters, historical fictional characters, and it's got supernatural elements. Like, that could be fun. So I'm going to give it a second chance. I'll report to you when we do our recap of the winter one. But all right, that's my second one. What do you got next there?
Right,
what is your first pick here?
I will start us out with Berserk of Gluttony.
Berserk of Gluttony. Tell me what the fuck this is. I never heard of this.
Right, so basically the way this world works is there are 2 kinds of people. There are people born with superior skills, and there are people born with useless skills. And our main character, Fate, happens to have the worst skill you could possibly have. He has the skill Gluttony, which, as the name suggests, makes him hungry.
Okay. Yeah, that almost sounds like a negative. Like, it's not like
it.
There's got to be. I'm
gonna
guess there's some positive that comes out of that, but okay, I'll let you keep going.
So,
sorry to interject here for a second. I just brought up the poster, which I've never seen before. My fuck, does this look like a ripoff of Sword Art Online?
Yeah, I mean,
dude, that's Kirito, and dude, that's Asuna.
Yeah.
I'm like, holy fuck, does this look like it's ripping off Sword Art Online?
Yeah, a little bit.
But I mean, okay, whatever. That's just the character
style-wise. I'll give you that.
Yeah, it's just the character models. I don't. Again, the plot's obviously whatever.
So Fate is looked down upon by all of these like royal families and stuff, with the exception of
And Fate is the Kirito looking fucking
yes.
guy. Okay, yeah, and so this is like fantasy world.
Yes,
this is
like medieval,
like the typical like fantasy medieval
like
setting,
monsters and.
But it's not an isekai. It's not like
no.
So Fate didn't
like he
wasn't a student that got hit by a car and now he's in this world.
No, there was nothing stupid like
okay,
that. No.
All right.
But I can't think of her name. The blonde girl there.
Asuna.
Yes, Asuna. Asuna 2.0.
Yeah.
She is the only royal who shows him any respect. She actually like treats her citizens well. But the specific royal family who is, I'll say, in charge of his life are god-awful. Like, the worst of the worst, like, leaders you could ever find. Like, they find him working on, like, a guard post. He's standing guard outside this gate. And to pay him, they drop the money on the ground and as he goes to pick it up, they crush his hands under their boots.
Oof.
They just beat the crap out of him because his stomach growls because of his stupid power.
Yeah.
And she steps in to save him. Asuna 2.0 steps in to save him. But
and,
anyway.
And sorry, what is his position again? Like, what is he in the world?
He's just a peon.
He's just like what would you call it? Like, he's just one of the people, like a villager type.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's essentially homeless.
Okay.
Like, he is the poorest of the poor.
And Asuna 2.0 is what?
She's a royal.
She's an actual royal.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when we say royals, it's not so much like they have money. I mean, obviously they do because, they have to.
Right.
But these people born into these families have superior skills that only holy knights can wield. So, like, they aren't so much just royals; they are holy knights.
Because
they are superior soldiers.
Because everyone's born with an ability.
Yes.
Okay, and it manifests at some point.
I believe it's when they're born. They're just born with this ability.
Oh, okay, cool.
And they can kind of pull it up like a menu screen in a video game.
Okay.
So.
Jesus Christ! This is not going away anytime soon. This like, you can. There's menus in this world, but it's not supposed to be an isekai, and it's not supposed to be a video game. So it's like these fictional worlds have just become video games, I guess, now.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because like they use the terminology of video games, and then now it's like I've noticed this trope too, where it's like, oh yeah, there's just menus. Like characters just hit menus. It's
just like, oh yeah,
menus?
I'm like level 25 right now, dude.
Yeah, like what? You can look up stats. It's like that's not reality though. Like, anyways, yeah. I'm not a fan of that.
Yeah.
I don't like that. For Sword Art Online, it made sense. They were in a video game.
Yeah, but I'm with you on that. That part is
it's a little
kind
too dumb.
of stupid.
It's too dumb. I don't mind if you're going to use the terminology of video games, but don't fucking like there's an interface. It's like reality doesn't have like a stat screen. Like I don't see stats above
you haven't
your head
unlocked
right
yours
now.
yet?
No.
But anyway, I want to say her name is Rose. I can't remember her name.
Asuna.
Yes, Asuna.
Here's
it's Lady Roxy. I have it in my notes.
Here's a handy tip. So when I do my notes, I always put underneath each one, I put the names of the main characters.
Yeah.
In case I have to refer to them, because you're gonna forget.
Yeah.
Like, you think I was gonna remember Sugaru from Undead?
Dude, I thought you
Farce?
pulled that right off the top of your head.
Fuck no! You think I remember these? Fuck no! I don't remember these fucking names.
No, for a lot of them I did, but
it's just
I
useful.
put hers at the
I
bottom.
always put it. Oh, that's why I didn't see it. Yeah.
No, but so Lady Roxy, she takes over his guard post. She's standing guard outside the walls of the kingdom, I guess.
Right.
And he goes on his way for the night. He's sitting there in this bar, and he's eating bread because it's all he can afford.
Yep.
And with his skill, obviously that's not quite enough for him.
No.
Well, he's walking home for the night. He's defeated, broke again, and he sees these people trying to climb over the wall. So he runs to Lady Roxy, says, "They're bandits breaking into the castle. Like, you have to stop them." And she goes, "You're sure about this?" He says, "I saw them with my own eyes." She requests that he guard her post and runs into the kingdom to kill these bandits. But one gets away. And doesn't he just happen to come out that gate where Fate is standing guard? He's pretty beaten up, so Fate says, "You know what? I may not have the best abilities, but I could probably take this guy." So, doing anything he can to stop him, he happens to land a killing blow through this guy's heart.
Okay.
Gluttony activated. And he absorbs all of this guy's stats and skills.
Because there's the twist. I thought you were gonna say he just eats the guy. I was like, oh, let me guess, he just eats the guy? Like,
essentially, I mean, he absorbs him.
He eats his like powers, basically. Yeah.
Yeah. So he gains all of the bandit's abilities and stats.
So anybody he kills
becomes a part of him, essentially.
Which is a god tier ability.
Yes.
Yeah.
A god tier ability that he cannot reveal to the kingdom because they'll see him as a threat.
Of course. Yeah, because he could just fucking eventually amass like an insane level of power, right?
Yeah.
So okay, that's interesting. Keep going.
So through some turn of fate, Lady Roxy returns, sees that he killed this man, like offers him a reward, but he insists he doesn't need one. And as it would turn out, she decides, like, you know what? I'm going to free you from your evil rulers and you can come work for me now. So he joins her, I guess like royal guard or whatever you'd call them, a group of servants essentially.
Right.
But she kind of places him at a higher tier. He's literally her right-hand man. Everywhere she goes, he goes with her. And as they spend more time together, they both grow more interested in each other.
Okay.
Until she has to go and take her father's post because her father died on the front lines. She has to go to this other town and save them from this army of monsters lurking outside the kingdom.
Right.
And she has to leave him behind because he's too weak, to her knowledge anyway, to do anything.
Right.
All the while, he's going out at night to feed his ability because now it's evolved. It absorbs stats, but the kicker is, the stronger he gets, the more he needs to eat.
Oh, the hungrier
But
he gets. Oh.
he doesn't need to eat food. He needs to devour souls. And he can only do so by killing monsters, humans, the like.
Okay, at least you can kill monsters.
But to do this, he needs a weapon. So with the little money he has, he goes to this bargain bin of swords, if you will. And one of the skills he acquired from this bandit was analysis. So he's looking over the swords to see like what has the best durability, the attack, all that stuff. He's analyzing them all, and he finds one called Greed.
Okay.
And when he picks it up, another ability he has is like telepathy, or not, yeah, telepathy. Like everything he touches, like anybody he touches, he can hear their thoughts.
Okay.
But only when he touches them. So he picks up this sword, and it starts talking to him about how they were destined to meet and work together. So they go out, and this sword is teaching him about his gluttony ability and reveals, like, you've got to kill because you're getting hungry. If you don't feed, you die. You'll starve to death. And through killing all these monsters, like hordes of monsters, the kingdom becomes aware that there's a threat. They don't know what the hell is killing these
They're
monsters.
just like, what the fuck's killing all these things, right?
They just know that the ears of these orcs are missing.
Right.
So after Lady Roxy leaves, through his love for her, he follows behind her caravan to go to this kingdom to keep her safe. And in their travels, he finds this mask to hide his identity. And sort of just everywhere there's trouble, he comes up to protect her. Because despite being a holy knight, she's not quite strong enough to take out the god-tier enemies that are coming her way.
That are plaguing the kingdom or whatever.
But as we progress, we meet more characters. I don't want to reveal too much, but
Did you watch this whole thing?
I did, yeah.
Okay. And this is first season, however many episodes.
12 episodes.
And
yeah.
you did the whole thing?
I did.
Wow. All right.
But essentially, there are more to the 7 deadly sins, of course, be they weapons or people. Like, almost everyone on that poster is one of the sins.
Oh, the abilities are based on sins.
Yes.
Oh, okay. I just thought that was a generic, like, gluttony was a thing. Oh, okay. So, like, pride would be one, or?
Yeah. So the white-haired girl there is actually Wrath, and her weapon is Sloth.
Okay. Interesting. All right.
And their abilities all have some direct connection to
Is this
the
at
sins.
all like 7 Deadly Sins? Of course I'm going to ask that. An anime that I've never watched that I'm assuming you've seen.
Yes, but no.
Okay.
And I have seen 7 Deadly Sins.
Okay.
7 Deadly Frames, if you will.
It's not called 7 Deadly Sins?
Oh, it is. It's just the animation. It's kind of shit.
Oh. Ooh, throwing shade. I like it.
Yeah,
All right.
but no, it's similar in the sense that they are the sins,
Yeah.
but it's a little bit different. They aren't necessarily all friends.
So what's the main conflict? Or they haven't really revealed
So
it yet? Like,
they've kind of revealed it, but they haven't quite revealed it.
What are
so-
they all trying to do? I get that the guy's following the girl because that's his love interest. What are the girl and her band trying to do?
Well,
What's their goal?
she is trying to meet up with the other sins. Because as it would turn out, when one of them dies, the ability comes up somewhere else.
Okay.
So I don't know if all of them can live an incredibly long time, but some of them are quite old.
But here's my question, because there's only 7 deadly sins. Does that mean multiple people have pride? Multiple people have wrath?
One at a time.
But you said everybody's born with an ability.
Yes. But the sin abilities are limited.
Oh, they're their own specifics. Only
Yes.
7. Oh, so what is Asana's?
She doesn't have one.
Oh, so what is her
She's just
actual
a holy
ability?
knight.
What's her actual ability?
I don't remember what it's called, but it's whatever like the holy skill is.
Okay, cool. Interesting. All right.
But
Things you like, things you didn't like?
so the things I like will actually give a little bit more detail about the anime.
Sure.
So he's gifted this amazing power, which could lead to endless strength because, of course, everything he kills makes him stronger.
Right.
Which, in turn, makes him hungrier. So what they did was his weapon is called Greed, right? And Greed has his own ability. So as he accumulates a bunch of strength, Greed says, hey, give me all your stats so I can level up. And he absorbs every ounce of strength that he's accumulated up to then,
Right.
which essentially resets his gluttony. He keeps the skills, but he loses his strength, his speed, all of that.
Right.
Resets to 0. And then Greed gets a power up. For example, like from level 1 to level 2, he can now turn into a bow, and the bolts always hit.
Right.
So it doesn't matter what the target is, doesn't matter if they're running, where they're hiding.
So greed is kind of
Always
like an infinitely powering up weapon.
Yes.
Right. Okay. And greed's not a person; it's a weapon.
That's complicated.
Okay.
They haven't quite explained it.
Because
but
you
they've-
said there was only 7 sins, so I'm like, so greed, that's one of the sins. That's one of the guys. That was
Yeah.
one of the people that had the ability.
It's suggested.
And you said wrath has what?
She has sloth.
Sloth, right? So that's like, so her weapon is also one of the people that had an ability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's suggested that perhaps the weapons were once human.
Wow, I mean, they must have been, right?
It's implied.
Yeah. I mean, they're also self-aware.
Some of the other stuff I liked were, I just actually covered a lot of it. So his abilities don't stop at him just stealing abilities. He can actually adapt and evolve those abilities so he can combine different things. So say he takes like fire and water and he can make some sort of steam magic.
Okay.
So his capabilities are kind of endless.
Typical over OP protagonist.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Sounds like Kirito.
that actually leads to something I don't like. So a little later in the show, they do this thing, and I get his power is going to be kind of like top tier, right?
Right.
It's sort of limitless in a way. But then they introduce this guy and they go, oh, you don't stand a chance against him because you're rank like E, and you've got to be ranked D level strength to fight this guy. And he's like, what? There are ranks to this? It's like, the man's already God tier. But he needs to break through a barrier because he hits the level cap? It's like, well, what is the point in that? It's like there was so much more you could have done because, like, you paint this picture like these holy knights are so strong. And then you go, oh, yeah, by the way, they don't stand a chance against anything in this world. And turns out it goes even further beyond that.
So there's a whole like ranking system of abilities.
They basically do what Dragon
strength.
Ball Z did.
Okay.
It's like Dragon Ball, it was all like lower power level. And then
Right.
Dragon Ball Z hits and it's over 9,000, right?
Where it's like I mean, that's all shonen in all fairness, not just
Yeah.
Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball is one of the worst for this, but it's the trope of the power creep is what it's called.
Yeah.
Where there's always a bigger ceiling of power. And every time you think you're at your max, a new guy shows up and you ain't shit. And
Yeah.
then you have to hit a new ceiling of
I'm
power.
like, I'm
Yeah.
okay with that.
Yeah.
But it's like, what's this thing with like quadrupling your strength or like 10xing it for the next big bad? Why
Right.
can't he just be stronger than you? You know? It's like, why is it always such a drastic difference that they immediately overcome? And that was just the biggest thing I didn't like about it. The power scaling,
It's off.
it was off.
It's
yeah.
off. Yep.
The combat did feel a little bit stale.
Okay.
The animation
Probably
was
not a hugely budgeted.
Yeah.
Anime. It's probably one of
Like,
the lower budgeted.
to their credit, they focused on what they could animate well.
Okay.
So they did a lot of close-ups, like say they were running up for a killing blow or something. They focused on like that profile shot.
Yeah.
So they didn't have to animate legs or arms or whatever.
Yeah.
So they saved it for the parts that, made the most impact. And the animation did actually improve a little bit later in the show. So I'll give them that. But I mean, at first, like, little stale. Other than that, like, I don't really have anything else I didn't like. Yeah.
Yeah. You liked it.
Yeah, no, it was good.
You want a second? You want another season?
I'd be cool with another season.
All right.
I mean, if I can
maybe
watch
you get your
Dragon
wish.
Ball Z, I can handle the power scaling, because that's my biggest issue.
That's exactly it, yeah. Okay, that was Berserk of Gluttony. Back to me. Gonna keep this rolling. I've got another pick that people are gonna be like, that's not an anime. Well, shut the fuck up, all right? It's animated, it's anime style, it counts in my fucking book, okay? Very similar to the Castlevania anime that I just talked about. This was also created by Adi Shankar. Do you recognize that name?
I don't.
So Adi Shankar, he's the creator of what's called the Bootleg universe. He got famous on YouTube for doing these he would do these short fan films that were like insanely well produced. Like I think he did one for Power Rangers and one for, I want to say, no, maybe he wasn't the Mortal Kombat guy, but he did these insanely high production value fan films of like known properties. He ended up getting hired by Netflix to oversee the Castlevania adaptation. He obviously knocked it out of the fucking park. They now have thrown more money behind him, and he started his own production company now, which I can't remember what it's called, but he is the one that produces a lot of these quote unquote like North American animes, like for Netflix, like the adaptations. So he did the Castlevania. He's producing the Castlevania Nocturne. And he also did, he's got Devil May Cry is upcoming. That's also Adi Shankar. He's also responsible for my next pick, Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix.
I haven't actually heard of that one.
You've never heard of this?
No.
This fucking madness right here. Okay, let me ask you this. Have you ever played Far Cry?
I have, yeah.
Have you ever played Far Cry Blood Dragon?
I have not.
Do you know what that is?
I've heard of it, yeah.
So for those that don't know, Far Cry Blood Dragon, Far Cry is like a very popular big video game franchise. It's a first-person shooter. Every game, it's like a sandbox, open-world, first-person shooter. Every game is kind of a unique story, but it's a similar kind of vibe where it's like, I don't really know the first game, but the second game is like, you're in, I believe, like an African type country, and it's like you're fighting like poachers and like rebel warlords and that sort of thing. The third game is kind of the same thing. The fourth game, same thing. It's like warlords. It's always like some sort of warlord or some sort of eccentric villain type character. Far Cry Blood Dragon is the Madness 80s sequel, so I think it's actually Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. It's like a spinoff of the third Far Cry game. That has nothing, it's tonally completely different than all the other games, where it is completely tongue-in-cheek and over the top, and it's making fun / like it's an homage to all of the 80s tropes of science fiction. So like the main character is voiced by Michael Biehn, who, if you don't know, that's guy who played Kyle Reese in Terminator 1 and 2. It's like the main character in that. Yep. He's also Hicks in Aliens. He is like a cyborg character that's trying to take down this like cartoonishly evil organization, and they employ like these cybernetically enhanced creatures known as blood dragons. It's so over the top in 80s. It's got this kickin' fucking 80s synth soundtrack. It just oozes 80s style. It's all colorful and flashy. There's like execution animations where you like rip out guys' spines and shit. All the weapons you can get in that game are all references to actual 80s movies. So like you can get RoboCop's gun and you can get the Terminator shotgun. Like it's fucking awesome. Highly recommend that game. So this was a shock to me because it was like, you listen to the name, Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix. And I was like, what the fuck does that mean? Because Blood Dragon already was madness. It is a beloved video game, by the way, in that franchise. It's very well liked, even though it's just its own beast. It really is. It plays out like an 80s cartoon. Is a good way of describing it. Like the video game. The Netflix show, I didn't know what to expect based on the name. I'm like, is this a spin-off of the video game? It's not really. So like take a lot from the remix in that title. It basically uses elements of the video game and it kind of can exist in that world, but none of the characters show up. The main character's kind of a version of the character you play in Far Cry Blood Dragon. The main character's name is Dolph Laserhawk. And he's like a cybernetic super soldier. This takes place in the far-off future of 1992. It's an alternate timeline, obviously, where I think the term is techocracy or technocracy. It's basically like, it's a cyber world. It's like if you've ever watched like Blade Runner or Cyberpunk, maybe any of the Cyberpunk, you know what I'm talking about? That dystopian sci-fi.
Yeah, I actually just watched Cyberpunk this week.
Cyberpunk Edge Runners?
Yeah.
There you go. So it's like it can take place in that world where like technology has just gone off the deep end and like we've got flying cars and we've got anything you can basically think of. We have it. Humans can augment themselves with cybernetic enhancements and become like superhumans. And everything is controlled by like a massive government known as... So the government and the world is now known as Eden. Eden is what like society, like everything is known as. There's not really any countries anymore. It's just Eden, but that's also the name of the government. And they control everything. They're like an omnipotent mega corporation / government body. It's very like nihilistic in that like Bigger Brother's always watching and like you can't get away. We control everything you hear and see. And like we control the media and like, reality is whatever we want it to be. It's very dark in that sense. Dolph Laserhawk, he is an ex-Eden soldier who he wants to get out of Eden. So he wants to go like what's called like off-grid. So he wants to be out of the system completely because like you're basically being tracked at all times. Your life's being monitored. You're very much like a cog in the machine. It's very like you almost kind of have no freedom in this techno world,
Yeah.
So he wants to get out of the system. The first episode begins with him and his boyfriend. Yes, boyfriend. This is a very progressive anime. His boyfriend, Alex Taylor. They are trying to get some sort of MacGuffin, some sort of device that gives them like infinite funds, like infinite credits. And that basically is going to buy their freedom. That's the plan. He gets betrayed by his boyfriend and left for dead. Because it turns out his boyfriend was actually using him, and his boyfriend is actually part of a freedom fighter resistance that's trying to take down Eden. Like they want to destroy the government. Dolph just wanted to get out of the system. Alex is part of a group that wants to tear the system down, like wants to destroy it.
Okay. Yeah, so he's just kind of a stepping stone for his boyfriend.
But he was basically, yeah. And then Dolph gets thrown in like a supermax prison. And then a bomb gets put into his brain, and then he now is part of a secret, like Black Ops group of eccentric characters that are going to carry out random suicide missions. Does this sound familiar at all?
A little bit.
Like Suicide Squad, perhaps? It's literally the plot of Suicide Squad, in a sense, in that basic structure. The caretaker or his like warden of the Supermax facility is a woman named Sarah Fisher, who's basically the Amanda Waller in this story. So she's like the woman with her, her finger on the button, and all you random freaks, you all now work for me, and you're gonna carry out my suicide missions. And if you fail, I'm gonna blow your head up, like because there's a bomb in your brain. And so you have to listen to what I say. And Dolph is sent out with these other characters. The characters are all like random. When I say random, I mean fucking random, like all over the place. There is a anthropomorphic talking frog who is actually a member of the Order of the Assassin's Creed video games.
Oh, wow.
So I'll pause for a second. So these characters get sent on like crazy missions, okay? That's the basic plot, is Dolph's trying to get revenge and figure out what the fuck happened to him while trying to get out of the system. He's our main hero. The other characters are kind of like secondary characters, but everyone kind of gets caught in this conflict of Eden is at war with itself, where some people are resisting and they want out of the system, and then the actual Eden officials are trying to maintain order. It's way more convoluted than that. And this Suicide Squad gets sent out on random missions, of which they don't really understand why they're carrying out these tasks anyways, but shut the fuck up, you're going to do it. It's very convoluted. It's very confusing.
Like, what sort of tasks does this
look, literally, they're like, okay, go kill this guy. Like, go into this club and kill this guy. And then, but like, that guy's like insanely hard to get at because he's got like god tier security and like, like cybernetically enhanced bodyguards protecting him. So it's hard to kill him. And then it's like a mission I think was like, go retrieve this thing, but it's in this place that's not impossible to get into. And if you get detected, you're fucked. And it's like that kind of shit. But they don't know why they're carrying out any of these tasks, but they're fucked anyways because they're all prisoners of the state. So they kind of have to do whatever they're told. The plot is, I'm going to start with the negative. It's too over the top. It's not straightforward. It is complete madness, and it's very difficult to follow. Like, when going through my notes for prepping for this one I really struggled to remember the plot because it's such a fucking mess. It's like an episode is like, okay, you guys are gonna go do a thing, and then blah 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 blah, and then that episode then turns into, okay, now we got backstory for this character, and then that turns into now we're following Alex Taylor and seeing what he's doing, and then that. And now we're following Rayman, and Rayman's got his own little story, and it's like, what is going on here?
I was actually going to ask about that because I saw Rayman's picture.
Okay,
there.
so this is what I really want to talk about. This show is an absolute love letter to Ubisoft. Yes, the video game company Ubisoft or Ubisoft, however you want to pronounce it. It is a love letter to that video game company. So all of the characters in the show, virtually every single character, is a reference, or in many cases, actually the character from an Ubisoft or Ubisoft video game franchise. How fucking awesome is that?
That's pretty fascinating.
So the main guy is basically the main guy from Far Cry Blood Dragon. His boyfriend, Alex Taylor, is apparently from the video game series The Crew, which I've never played. But apparently he's in that. Just so you know, like, this isn't canon. This is just madness. So like, none of this is canon. They had complete carte blanche freedom to just use these characters and remix them however the fuck they wanted to.
I like that you used remix.
Because that's literally what they are. Sarah Fisher, if that name sounds familiar, Fisher, it is actually the main character in Splinter Cell. I believe the character's name is Sam Fisher. It's that character's daughter. The character from Splinter Cell. That's fucking awesome. The frog that I mentioned, there's anthropomorphic creatures or animals, whatever you want to call them, in this world.
Yep.
They're called hybrids. So that frog is actually a member of the fucking Assassin's Creed bloodline, like of that order, whatever the fuck you want to call it. So he's an actual Assassin's Creed character, like, and has the garb and everything, but he's dressed like but it's a frog. It's like a bullfrog. Yes, the show's very comedic and tongue-in-cheek. Yeah. It's not serious by any means. Rayman is a main character in this. Rayman is the host of Eden's like propaganda talk show, and he has like a whole arc where he becomes disillusioned with like the Eden government and like his role and everything, and then he becomes like a pseudo vigilante. One of the characters is Jade from Beyond Good and Evil, like the main character of that fucking video game. Like it's deep dive. Actually, yeah, you can see them all right there. So like Jade, so like these two characters, the pig dude and Jade, they're from Beyond Good and Evil. Do you know that video game?
No.
It's kind of like it's a fan favorite, like well-regarded game, but it's like an older sixth generation era, like GameCube era, like video game.
Okay.
It's definitely a cult classic, but it never got a sequel for whatever fucking reason. Yeah, that's Sam Fisher's daughter. That guy's apparently from the crew. There's the fucking Assassin's Creed frog, like bullfrog there. Like, the show is complete fucking madness. It's like, do a line of cocaine. That's this show. It's just any idea you can think of gets thrown at you. Like, it's just complete fucking madness, but to its fault. That's my problem with it. It's got a lot of cool shit in it, a lot of fun moments, a lot of fun characters, but it's too madness, and it's like you almost get a headache from how chaotic it is.
Yeah, they took it a little too far.
Little too fucking far. So like, you just watch Cyberpunk Edge Runners, that show gets madness many times, but it always makes time to pause and just have quiet episodes.
Yeah.
And quiet moments. That show is brilliantly paced. This show is, imagine you took out virtually all those quiet moments and all you're left is with the chaotic episodes where they're just shootouts and shit. That's this show.
Shit.
It gets too much, especially by the end. It's too hard to follow. It's a little too, it's too convoluted for its own good. To its credit, though, the animation is fucking awesome. I would say it's not quite up to the par of Castlevania or Edge Runners, but it's pretty fucking close. But what it does that those shows don't do is it's stylish as fuck. And one of the things they constantly do in the show is they'll change the animation style. And they'll make it so like all of a sudden this sequence, it looks like a video game, but they will constantly do different styles of video game. So it's like all of a sudden, like at the beginning, I think when Alex Taylor and Dolph are trying to infiltrate the facility, they're like, at one point the sequence looks like Legend of Zelda. It's like an overhead like RPG all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is fucking awesome. Like they do a lot of stylish things like that.
So they don't just steal characters, they steal entire styles.
Oh, absolutely. They do homages to entire like genres of like 90s video game culture. So like all of a sudden the sequence will become like I don't know, an action adventure. Now it's a role-playing game. Now it's a fighting game. Like, and they constantly are playing with the styles. So it is as stylish as fuck. I do recommend this show because it is a good time, but I don't like you're gonna get a fucking headache if you watch 3 of these episodes in a row. Just pace yourself on it. You only need to do half a bump of coke.
Just pace yourself because they won't.
Right. Don't do the whole line of blow. Just do a little bump. You know what I mean? That little bit of fingernail. That's all you need. Other than that, I don't have anything else to say. It's just, it was a good time.
Oh, I mean, it's definitely going on my list. It sounds fascinating.
I think it got greenlit for a second season too. One of the things I'm bad with is I don't write down how many episodes are actually in a season and that shit. You're better at that than I am. I don't typically write that down, but this was only the first season, and I believe it got greenlit for a second season. I don't know where they go with it, but we'll see. But that's my third pick. I'm going to do one more, and then we'll go back to you.
Yep.
Let's cut through mine faster. Okay. This was, of all the shows on my list, this was the one I was probably second most hyped for. Like, when I do my research for like the upcoming season, I watch trailers, I read articles, and I go like, and then I make a list of like, okay, here's my watch list. This is what I'm going to check out, right? And a lot don't make the cut, but I usually end up with like, I don't know, 6 to 10 picks ish. Firefighter Daigo, Rescuer in Orange.
That sounds like a mouthful.
Do you know that this is at all?
No.
You've never heard of this? I mean, obviously you can look at the poster and you're like, oh, it's a anime about firefighting. But you never even heard of this? Nothing?
Not at all. No,
okay.
I've heard of Fire Force.
No, this is nothing like Fire Force. So Fire Force is a shonen battle anime that uses the imagery and aesthetic of firefighters. This is a grounded, dramatic show about firefighters.
Okay.
There's no battle, like
no mystical powers.
No, this is complete grounded realism.
Okay.
Like to the point of almost being an educational show. It's like played 100% straight. There's not really any fuckery. The show basic plot follows 3 main protagonists who you can see there, the 2 guys and the 1 girl. The main character's name is Daigo, who is this, like, they're all young people. I think I want to say like early 20s, maybe like 19, 20, somewhere around that age. They're all new, like, recruits, fresh out of the academy, like the firefighting academy, whatever you have to do the training there. Daigo is this, like, straight-laced, very serious, determined, chip on his shoulder. He wants to be a firefighter for a very noble cause. He is a very, like, good conscience, morally upright citizen. When he was a young boy, he was saved by a firefighter, and because of that inspired him, and now he wants to help people. So it's a very good-natured person.
Well, he wants to be the hero that saved him.
Basically, it's a very noble, honorable cause, but because of that, he has a bit of a chip on his shoulder where he's like, no, I have to be the best, and I push myself, and I have no limits. Like, that's kind of the idea.
It's honorable.
Yeah. And then we've got Yuki, who again is the serious. Her chip, she's the female. The chip on her shoulder is basically, it's very difficult to become a female firefighter in reality and also in this world. And I think in Japan, the percentage of female firefighters is something like 3%.
Oh, wow.
So it's like very rare to have female firefighters. So like she's trying to prove to herself that she can do this, which again, very noble, honorable cause. Shun, I don't really remember much about his character. He's like, he wants to do this, but it's kind of like he wants to do this to be cool. It's not quite as honorable as his fellow, classmates or whatever. It's just, I just don't remember a ton about his character. He's not as serious as the other 2. He's not a goofball by any means. Like, he gets shit done, but it's not like this is his life pursuit, you know?
Yeah.
They just didn't, his character, I didn't get as much depth, I felt. Like, he kind of is there to react to the other characters do something. Like, he basically is there so when Daigo does, like, something amazing, he'll be like, oh, I can't believe Daigo did that. Like, he's just there to react kind of thing, you know?
Yeah.
I know you know the character I'm talking about. Like,
absolutely.
All animes have that character. Where it's like, you only exist to react to the incredible feat the main character just did.
I mean, sometimes those characters end up growing and becoming something
right.
cool.
And maybe he eventually does become that. I didn't finish this show. So in case you're wondering, like, why were you so hyped for a show about firefighting? I really like the concept and the reality of firefighters. So I actually at one point wanted to become a firefighter. I swear to God. And I never went through on it, but I highly respect the craft, the profession, and I am enamored by the reality of that career. And I love any kind of media that tackles that subject or video game. I fucking love firefighting video games. You have my attention. So it was, as soon as I saw that it wasn't Fire Force, it wasn't a battle shonen anime about like spirits and shit, and it was like, no, this is actually just a serious, straight firefighting show. I was like, fucking sign me up. This sounds awesome. So I was really excited. It didn't quite deliver what I was hoping for. Obviously, I didn't finish the first season. I think it's good. It's just not great, and it's not particularly interesting. The pacing for me was like, the premise is like it works solid enough. So like the premise is the 3 main characters are going through the training academy, then they go to this special training, and the special training is to become part of the Orange Team, hence the title Rescuer in Orange, which I don't know if this is a thing in Japan or not, but it's basically like there's the regular emergency response, which would be like your police, fire, and ambulance. But then the Orange Team are like who you call in for the really serious emergencies, like a building collapsing or some shit like that. And they're known as whatever, the Team Orange or Orange Team or whatever. But like they're the next level, so they're above regular firefighting force, okay? And they, in order to get into that, it's like a percentage of a percentage of a percentage of applicants actually make it through into that and get accepted into
The
that.
top tier only?
Exactly. It's like the best of the best of the best make it into this. So our 3 main protagonists make it into this, naturally, of course. Otherwise, you don't have a story. And then they get into it, and then the show is basically just things happen. And like emergencies happen, and they have to solve the emergencies. And we get introduced to other characters who are part of their crew. And each character has their own personality, and they have their own mannerisms, and they have their own ways of reacting and handling the situation. I only got to like the second emergency they went to because I just thought after the first one, I was like, ooh, the pacing on this kind of sucks shit. So the tone is very serious. There's not really any humor at all. That's not necessarily a problem because I don't like things that are too goofy. But because of it, it's very dry. And like when I say it's borderline like an educational anime, I honestly mean that. It's very dry in its information delivery.
So it's almost too realistic.
Yeah. It's just the problem is they just didn't give you enough of a interest. They just didn't give you enough with the characters. You just don't get enough. So right off the bat, the pacing is way off on this show. So it starts off, the first 10 minutes is like this action-packed sequence in the first episode of like this harrowing rescue from like this burning apartment building, and our main characters are like having to go up on the giant like sky ladder, that like 50-foot fucking ladder, that extends, the extension ladder.
Yep.
And they have this like dramatic rescue and all that scene. And then all of a sudden we flash back, and now they're fresh recruits in the academy to be a part of this this like elite group. And that to me was the best part of the show, because I love that concept of like these characters are going through this brutal training regimen and this brutal training course to become the best of the best of the best. And we're going to slowly learn about them and what brought each of them into this thing. But they don't do that. They literally, so I don't know how many episodes this had, maybe like 18 or something like that. The best part of the show, which is them in training, is literally barely 3 episodes. So it's like half the first episode, the second episode, third episode, the fourth episode, they're graduating. Like the beginning of the fourth episode, it's like, congratulations, you all graduated. So it's like, what that should have been like, I think you could have even done the whole first season of just them in the academy. And then they graduate, and then or maybe half the season, they tried to, they rushed them through the academy, and you just don't get enough characterization.
Yeah, they could have turned it into like a cool training arc.
Right. Okay. Do you remember how amazing, this is what reminded me of, remember how amazing the training arc was in Attack on Titan?
Oh, absolutely.
It was like a whole season.
Yeah.
That's what this should have been. And where we got to really know all of these characters. You don't get that. You get to know a little bit about them, and there's just not much to them, and you just don't get enough of them training, and then before you know it, they're out of training, and then we're getting new characters and a new crew, and then they're out in the field.
So like they didn't even do like a montage or something?
Well, they kind of do, but not like hugely. It's just like
not to the extent you want.
No, it's like, no, truthfully, it's like, you can do a little bit of montages. I don't mind that. Sprinkle them in. They do a few of them. The problem is, again, I just wanted more of the training camp. Like that to me is the more interesting. That's how you set up your characters.
Yeah.
And don't give me, I get why you did your little 10 minutes of dramatic rescue in the first episode because you're trying to hook the audience. Fuck off with that. I don't need that shit. Like, you don't need to do that. Just start off with them as fresh recruits. That would have totally been fine. You don't need to show me like, this is where they get to. It's like, we're going to get there, okay? We didn't start Attack on Titan with Eren Yeager zipping around on the fucking things, on the whatever, those, He didn't know what those were. He didn't know about those until he got into the academy, until he got into like the training corps for like the army. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You start off with something else. So that, I didn't like that. The pacing's off. The characters are just kind of bland. I'll say this to its credit, it's extremely educational. If you have even passing interest in like learning about firefighting, watch this fucking show. Honestly, they could show this show in schools. It's extremely educational. It shows you procedures on how they handle situations. It shows you equipment with accurate terminology. It shows you how they use the equipment. There was a lot of things that I didn't know, even from watching this show, where I was like, oh, that's neat. Is that a real piece of equipment? I looked it up. It's like, sure enough, yeah, they use that.
Wow.
So it's very educational. But then it also does, so this is when I stopped watching. Then it does stupid shit that's like, that's not realistic. So on the one hand, it's extremely grounded and realistic, but then you got shit like this where like at one point, it's like the first mission they're sent out on, Daigo and Shun, because Yuki ends up getting put into another unit. And Daigo and Yun, they go out to this building explosion, and there's a giant like part of the building that's like trapped this guy. And everyone's too big to crawl under to get at this guy to get him out. He's unconscious. So Daigo uses some like special technique to dislocate his own shoulder so he's small enough to crawl under the rubble. And I'm like, no, that's not a thing. No one would be able to do that. Like, fuck off. And I don't mean it's like Lethal Weapon where Mel Gibson just, his character has a quirk where he can dislocate his shoulder at will and then pop it back in. I mean, Daigo literally, like, you see him struggling, like, and then like pops out his own shoulder. And I'm like, no, you wouldn't do that. I'm sorry. People don't do that. That's not a thing. Like, no one could do that. Fuck off. Like, they don't even explain it like it's something that it's a quirk he's able to do. He just, like, forces it. But it's like he knows exactly how to pop out his own shoulder. I don't know. I thought that was so fucking stupid.
Through just sheer force of will. He's just,
literally.
I need this right now.
Yeah. So he's like, I'm just going to pop out my shoulder. No big deal. So then he crawls into the guy, and the guy ends up, his arm, a piece of rebar went through his arm, and it's like holding him in the thing. So they're like, oh, we're going to have to cut him out of that. So then they pass him a saw. Fuck, talk about bad pacing. It literally takes 10 minutes to cut one bar.
Oh, wow.
And we're not talking about the shitty fucking metal blades you're buying at Canadian Tire. We're talking the best of the best of the best Orange Team's cutting tools. You don't think they'd have like a diamond tipped blade that would be, or whatever, you know what I mean? They literally have special blades that are
like industrial grade shit.
Industrial grade blades. You're telling, like, the shit they would have, they would cut that bar in 30 seconds. But they drag it out so it's so dramatic of like,
will they save him inside?
Literally. And then they're like, the building's still collapsing. We got to get Daigo out of there. And he's like, I'm almost through. And I'm like, bitch, you would have been through that fucking bar so fucking fast with the cutting tools you have. Fuck off with that. So, yeah, I was a bit disappointed, honestly. It didn't hook me like I was really hoping it was going to be. I was hoping it was going to be a grounded firefighting show with some really interesting characters, and it was going to be a realistic take on the career of firefighting. It is all of those things except interesting characters. And the pacing's way off, and then they do stupid shit and then there's stupid shit in there that's like, you didn't need to put that in there. It's like, you're losing realism. No one would would dislocate their own shoulder to get at someone. Fuck off. You didn't even need to have that. You know, it could have just been like, he volunteers because he's the smallest one or something. You know, it's something admirable. That's fine.
I mean, you could have skipped the shoulder and gone a little extra on like an explosion or something.
You can increase the drama another way. To me, it felt cheap. It's just it's a cheap way of showing just how good and how committed Daigo is to the job.
Yeah.
It's cheap because it's not realistic. So you just did that as if like people were able to do that. You know?
I mean, like for firefighters, it's totally unnecessary anyway because obviously they're committed. They put their lives on the line every day.
Exactly. So it's like you're trying to make him needlessly cooler than he already, like they're already heroes. You don't need to make them larger than life, I guess is the way to put it. But that being said, it's still well made. The animation's good. It's just, you know, it's not quite there, but it's still competent and it's well made. And that was my fourth pick. Back to you, Johnny.
Right.
What do you got, Johnny?
Let's see what I have.
Keep
next.
it rolling. We're on a good pace today. I'm feeling. I got my energy up. try not to lose my voice this time.
All right, I'll go with this one. We'll go Ragna Crismon.
Say what?
Ragna Crismon.
That's a very short title. Oh, you know what's funny? All of my titles are like madnessly long. Like Undead Murder Farce, Captain Laserhawk at Blood Dragon Remix, Firefighter Daigo Rescuer in Orange, and then you got
Ragna Crismon.
Ragna Crismon, yeah. Okay, let me look this up. What's the plot?
All right, so essentially we follow Ragna, who's this like weak wannabe dragon hunter through some like, I don't know, unluck, I guess. Dragons tend to be attracted to him and kill whoever is around him.
So we're in a fantasy world?
Yes.
All right.
So he
How do
meets...
you find these shows? Like, none of these are ever on my radar. It's so fascinating. How do I find my shows and you find these shows?
So I was just scrolling through social media and a clip of it played, and I went, okay, that looks kind of cool.
These never... It just goes to show you that, like, the algorithms really take into account what your tastes are, because like this, I've never even heard of this. Was never on my radar. Same with that other fucking one you talked about, the gluttony one.
Yeah. Well, this one is actually like the first time I didn't have a streaming service I could watch it on.
Oh, pirate.
Yeah.
Arr, matey. Come watch some anime on the high seas of piracy.
Get ads for dating sites and local singles in your area.
Yes, right.
No, but so we follow Ragna. This really weak wannabe dragon hunter, if you will.
Yep.
And he meets this little girl who is, through some twist of fate, some extraordinary dragon hunter, or so they paint her to be. And she is the strongest dragon hunter in the kingdom that they are a part of. But one night while he's sleeping, he has a nightmare. And she's murdered by this superior dragon. So he wakes up and he starts training. He's really relentless with his training. He's torn up. He's barely sleeping. He's covered in bandages and bruises because he's just taking the training a little too far. And she notices this and encourages him to slow down. Like, everything's going to be okay. She's there. She can protect him. He doesn't need to be strong. And it's to the point that other dragon hunters see him as this pathetic waste of space mooching off some little girl. But she took him under her wing. She's going to protect him. But he's still haunted by these dreams of her dying. Until one day the kingdom is attacked by dragons. And turns out maybe his dream wasn't so far off. Even goes as far as having a vision of his future self talking to him, explaining that because he's so weak and pathetic, the people he loves will die. So he runs into the village to help protect her.
Is this like all the first episode?
Yes.
Okay, all right, yeah. I'm like, this has got to be the first episode.
So he
Sounds
runs
like
in to
it's very
protect her.
Right.
And he sees the dragon that is set to kill her, steps in front of her to save her, and he is obliterated in a single blow. And then it happens. His future self visits him in his slumber and passes his powers through time to Ragna in his current form. He wakes up, climbs out of this river, and he saves his friend. Just eviscerates this dragon.
So he gets like an awakening somehow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like a power awakening, right?
Like, goes in and he one-shots this dragon like it's nothing.
Right.
And saves her. And then it becomes this whole thing that he has to take out all of the dragons. He has to kill every last one of them, or the people he loves will never be safe because of his unlucky gift where dragons find him and kill his family. It even goes as far as, and I didn't like this, it was all to protect his friend. He abandons her, just sends her on her way alone so he will never be around to protect her again. But it's all to protect her.
Okay.
So, with his new powers awakened, you may be thinking, oh, well, that's kind of stupid, time travel, passing powers.
Well,
through
that's
time,
the
all
part
that
I
shit,
was
right?
like, how can he pass powers to himself from the future if he himself doesn't have those said powers to develop? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like, it doesn't really make any sense.
So essentially, they don't explain how specifically he passed it back, but they explain the powers that he gains through time. Essentially what happens is he loses friend after friend, loved one after loved one. And he trains so hard that his sword essentially becomes a part of his body. So now this silverine weapon, which is required to kill a dragon, he can now produce the silverine in his blood
Okay.
because he's just wielded the weapon for so long that it's literally become a part of him. He can just summon a sword or even just walk up to someone and push out this like silverine mist and crystallize this dragon and just shatter them like it's nothing. Now, I don't know if they reveal how he passed it through time, but they have revealed that he doesn't do it alone. He's working with a dragon, Crimson, thus the name Ragna Crismon. And Crimson has the same goal. He, she, I don't know. She kind of changes forms a lot.
Is that the redhead, like,
That's the one, yeah.
witch-looking chick there?
So, I think it's a boy.
Okay.
But
so this isn't
it's-
like the little girl that was like, oh, I can...
she's no longer in it after like the first or second episode.
Oh, okay.
He sends her away and is like, yeah, no, you're weak now. You're in my way.
So what is what's the conflict? Like, what's the plot? Like, what's he trying to accomplish?
He's trying to slaughter all dragons.
So it's kind of like Goblin Slayer, where it's like,
Yeah,
all
basically.
goblins will die. All
Yeah.
dragons will die. It's kind of similar idea.
Yeah, literally.
So does his personality completely change once he gets the new ability?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, now that he's strong enough to protect, he kind of goes a little overboard. Now,
Okay.
to their credit, like making a character too strong, in my opinion, is a bit of a flaw.
Yeah, this sounds like the typical OP protagonist problem.
Now, to balance that, they give him this power, he uses it, but then immediately goes into like a week-long coma
Okay.
because his body just can't handle it anymore.
Okay.
And they don't stop it after like the first episode, so every time he uses his powers, there are limits to how much his body can withstand, and he'll literally start bleeding out of his eyes.
Okay.
It's just because he's used his powers too much. But they've also made a point to highlight just how strong he is. Perhaps he could even take out the head dragon if his body can handle the powers.
What is the redhead trying to do again?
So-
he meets her in some village or some shit, and then
He actively seeks them out because he has some of the memories from his future self.
right.
And the redhead is a dragon.
Okay.
But Crimson doesn't like the dragons. And they form this, I guess, sort of
So
like
she's
a group.
so that's a dragon that can take human form.
Oh, all the higher ranked dragons are humanoid.
Oh, interesting. Was not
So,
expecting that. Are there menus in this world?
No.
Oh, shocking.
Yeah.
But we are in a fantasy world.
Yes.
Okay, just no menuing.
But basically, Crimson is a dragon that despises dragons.
Right.
And the whole, like, the terms of their contract, if you will, it's, Ragna drinks this, like, bottle of poison, and it will not activate in his body if he follows Crimson's orders. And those orders are, you will kill all of the dragons, and then you'll finish me off.
Okay.
Because the hatred is just so deep.
She hates
Crimson
her own kind.
Doesn't even want to be
whatever.
alive.
They hate their own kind.
And then, of course, Ragna just wants dragons dead because they kill everyone he loves.
Okay. Is this like a comedic at all, or is this like Goblin
So-
Slayer type, or it's just like bleak and dramatic and
It's
super serious?
It
Doesn't
gets
sound
kind
fun.
of goofy. So, the dragons attacked the city in the beginning, right? And the whole reason behind it, I have it written down here. It was one of my likes because it was funny. The dragons only attacked the city because there was a bread maker who made this delicious bread that the leader of the dragons enjoyed. Their business went under. So they just eviscerated everybody.
Okay.
People didn't spend enough money to keep the bread maker in business.
Right.
So she slaughtered them all.
It's fair. Yeah, it's fair. It's like your favorite Tim Hortons, like just when it left, so then you decided to destroy a city.
It's like, oh no, they got rid of apple fritters.
Right,
Like,
yeah, exactly.
Kill everybody. Yeah.
All must die. You got rid of the good Tim Hortons. Now we only have the shitty ones.
Yeah.
That one had the best selection of donuts and or muffins. That's the only place that had fritters.
That is the anime in a nutshell.
Right.
No. But the fight scenes are incredible. Like
really? Because it just sounds like an OP character that just like blows them all up in like 2 hits.
I mean, kind of.
Yeah.
But they sort of balance it out. Like there are fights that he helps them win, but he isn't necessarily a part of due to the limits of his body.
Are the human? Because you said they're humanoid. Do the humanoid ones take like full dragon form once the shit starts going down, or is it kind of like Natsu and Fairy Tail?
I haven't seen like a full dragonoid form, but they do like I guess kind of.
You know what I mean by like Natsu? Because Natsu has like half
like with
dragon.
the scales and whatnot.
Right? Yeah. Where he's got like flames around him and shit.
If I do recall, there was one scene where one of them like activated their abilities, and they kind of got like some dragonoid features to their face.
Okay, so actually they're more just humanoid. They're not like giant dragons.
And then like,
are there giant dragons in the show? Oh, there are. Okay, those are like the low ranking or whatever.
At the very beginning, they lead you to believe that they're all like dragons.
Right.
And then the second they introduced the first one, he's got like, if I recall, he has like a tail or something.
Right.
And he kind of has like dragon-like features, but like the higher their rank goes, they look more like a human.
Right.
So like the leader of the dragons, she actually can walk around as a human. It's like, despite everything, she doesn't really want people to die brutally. Mm-hmm. She blends in with society and sort of deals with them in her own way. Now, to get into some of the things I don't like, when he abandoned his friend, that the whole idea that she was this #1 dragon hunter and now she's suddenly useless was a bit much for me.
It's kind of like pointless. It's like, why even have that in there?
It's like, what was the whole point of the first
why
episode?
even have that character?
Why bother saving her if you're just going to send her off to probably die anyway?
She has nothing to do with the plot, right?
Yeah.
She's just there.
And then the whole idea behind him merging with his sword, I don't quite understand. Like, I get he was wielding it for a very long time, all of this training, killing dragons and whatnot.
Right. It's kind of stupid.
But the fact that it just kind of gets absorbed into him,
right?
And he eventually uses that to like make silverine bullets and shit. It's like, what's the point in swords if you're going to use guns?
Okay, yeah.
And finally, there's this one character I just can't fucking stand. It's like Crimson has this minion who is
the main guy's name. The main guy's name is Crimson.
Yeah,
yeah. That's also a little like on the nose. Crimson. Okay,
but
sure.
He has a slime minion who turns into like this little boy who's just annoying as all hell.
Right.
It's like his voice sucks. His whole character sucks because he's just fucking whiny. He straight up acts like a child. It's like he's supposed to be babysitting Ragna, but kind of ends up going the other way around because he's so childlike that he's essentially just useless.
Wait a minute. Is the main guy Ragna or Crimson?
So Ragna is the main guy with the white hair.
Oh, okay.
And Crimson is kind of
the
like
red. The
is also kind of a main character. But,
yeah, the redhead, the redhead looking witch is Crimson. That makes sense. Crimson. Yeah, sorry. Ragna is the main guy.
Yes.
Also stupid name. Whatever.
Well, a little bit. But no, the slime boy is just fucking
egregious
retarded.
and annoying as shit.
Absolutely. That being said, I do actually recommend this one. It is a solid watch.
What a surprise, folks. John always recommends. Never not a recommend. I want to be clear. Always a recommend.
Right, maybe I'll break records today.
Yeah, at some point. At some point. You always fascinate me with these picks I've just never fucking heard of. It's like,
well, be prepared. There are more.
Yeah, I know. You always pull these just random animes out that I'm like, I didn't know this was a thing.
There is actually one coming up that might actually interest you,
or might be on my list. Maybe
that's
possible.
Maybe.
This,
We'll see.
This could be the second episode, folks. Apparently, we already had another one. We had a crossover. But,
all right. Well, what do you have next?
Anything else you want to add about Ragna Crismon?
No, that's all I've got.
Did you watch full season?
I've still got a couple episodes.
Okay, yeah. And this is first season that it just started on?
Yeah, I think there are 12 in total. I might be wrong. They might have done a couple more.
All right, that's Ragna Crismon. Okay, my next pick on my list is not a good pick. It is not a recommend. I watched, going back to Netflix again, I watched a lot on Netflix. I'm going to give Netflix credit. I'm going to defend them for a second. There's not a ton of there's a ton of anime out there. There's not a lot of North American made anime. And most of what's out there is not great. Netflix has really been making an effort to produce original animation. And they actually they also fund actual Japanese production, like Japanese produced anime.
Yeah.
Like they I believe were responsible for producing the Violet Evergarden? Violet Evergarden. That's Japanese production, yes?
I believe so.
And that was Netflix produced, I believe, the movie.
I think
I don't know about the actual show, but I know the movie was.
Yeah.
And that was very well made. It's like gorgeous. So like I got to give Netflix a lot of credit. They have kind of realized like, oh, Netflix realized that, oh, anime is becoming a huge genre in like pop culture. And we need to get on the bandwagon like ASAP. And they're geniuses with what they're doing right now. They're adapting animes into live action. They beat Hollywood to that trend. They're rebooting animes that are popular. They're making sure to license really good, like critically acclaimed animes like Cowboy Bebop and fucking Monster, which I gushed about before. So like, I got to give them credit. They're doing a lot of work in the anime department.
Oh, they do have some pretty solid anime.
They do. This isn't one of them. They're not all bangers. So I watched the Onimusha anime.
So I've heard of it.
You have heard of it. Have you ever played these video games?
No.
Me neither. I've never gotten into this series. So Onimusha is actually a long-running video game series. For those that don't know, it's a video game franchise. Started in the 6th generation PS2 era. The first 4 games, I believe, are on the PS2, and then you know what? That might have been it. They might have had one game on the PS3. The series has been kind of dormant for a while. It's an interesting pick for an anime adaptation. It had potential. I don't know much about Onimusha. I know that it's like the series takes place primarily in like a alternative, Edo period, feudal Japan era, samurai era, and demons or Oni, whatever the fuck you want to call them, exist. And the protagonist is always someone that wields some sort of demon killing device that also allows them to absorb the souls of demons they kill, and then it allows them to like embed the souls in their armor and swords to like make themselves more powerful. That's
and
like
draw on their strength later.
Yeah, it's how you like upgrade in the video games. And I think the video game series always focuses on like a new type of Ronin, like a new character in each game. I don't believe there's any like particular recurring protagonist that's in all of them. This show, the Netflix show, it is a CGI, not 2D show, and it is based on basically none of the video games per se. So the main character is, the guy on the poster there is Miyamoto Musashi. Miyamoto Musashi, if that name sounds somewhat familiar to you, then you are a big fucking anime nerd and or Japanese history buff. But Miyamoto Musashi is actually like, it's like a Hattori Hanzo. It's a famous historical Japanese figure that actually existed, but they adapt him in like tons of popular media. So the main character is a version of an actual Japanese historical figure and not a character from the video game series. So so rather than use any of the characters in the video game series, they're just like, fuck it. We're going to make a new protagonist that takes place in the Onimusha Onimusha world, like universe, but it's like we're gonna use an actual Japanese historical figure. Why? I don't know.
It's a bold move.
Yeah, like that's Miyamoto Musashi is an actual Japanese historical figure that was like a famous philosopher and writer and Ronin, like an actual Ronin. And so the main character is a traveling Ronin of sorts. I don't really know what his goal is per se. It opens with like he's at a dojo where they have some sort of artifact, and the master of the dojo is like, if you want to use this artifact, then you're going to have to prove yourself. The artifact is like some sort of demon gauntlet that allows him to like fight equal with demons, because in this world, like demons exist, but like there's limits to what humans can do. Like you can get to a certain level of, nigh superhuman ability, but generally demons are like the level above that,
Yeah.
where they're just a little bit too strong. So you kind of need like magically enhanced weapons to take them on. So Miyamoto, or Musashi, whatever you want to fucking call him, he proves himself to the master. He gets to borrow this gauntlet, but then the master's like, all right, well, I'm going to send some of my underlings and they're going to accompany you on this mission that you have. And Miyamoto's trying to take out a specific demon of some area. It's not 100% straightforward. The pacing's not great. The characters suck shit. The biggest crime, though, is the animation is fucking garbage. The choreography is shit. The CGI looks like shit. The the fluidity of the animation is shit. Basic camera angles look like shit. So I don't know what studio they farmed this out to. It's very unfortunate because generally the Netflix produced shit, like the stuff that they are behind, not necessarily because they don't have their own studios, right? But generally the stuff they put their name behind is of a high caliber. Like Cyberpunk Edgerunners, fucking gorgeous. Castlevania, gorgeous. Violet Evergarden?
Yep.
Evergarden, gorgeous. Like the list goes on and on and on of shit they nail that it's just like top tier animation. And there's another one coming up on my list. Gorgeous. This sucks shit. It looks so bad. And like just basic filmmaking is off. Like the direction is off. They have angles. Like at one point, the characters are just like walking because it becomes like Musashi has like this band of like random characters, all of whom get no characterization, all just generic and kind of suck shit. And they're like on this walking journey. And as they're walking, the camera angles they use are just like the most uninteresting, unappealing angles you can think of. It'll be like a bird's eye view in the tops of their heads. And it's such like an ugly camera angle where I'm like, why would you use this shot? Like, there's no good shots of scenery and like foliage and nature. It's just an ugly anime from both a directing perspective and also an animation, like fundamentals of the craft. It's fucking awful looking. It's crap. So bad. I actually watched this with Kevin.
Yeah.
Our mutual friend Kevin from the other podcast on this network recently watched. Kevin and I watched the first episode. We were both like, oh, this is dog shit. I couldn't get past the first episode. We thought the animation looked so bad. We were like, I wonder if the animation from the like cutscenes from the actual PS2 video game would look better. We threw on a compilation of the PS2 era Onimusha video game cutscenes. They looked so much better.
Dude, that's awful.
Than a fucking television show, a Netflix television show produced in 2023 looked worse than video games from like 2003. So like two fucking decades previous, and they looked way better. We're talking about like the pre-rendered cutscenes. Yeah, it looked way better than the actual fucking show. Yeah. I don't recommend this show.
Well, write me if I'm wrong on this. It kind of looks like they did that like shitty 3D animation style that some animes are trying to pull off.
So it's basically like, okay, here's a good way of describing it. You know when you're watching modern anime now, and it's like 2D, 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 and then you just get this one weird shot of like a car or something, and it's like garbage 3D CG, and it looks like it was made in like the fucking 90s. Where you're like, whoa, and it stands out so much. The whole show is that.
Oh, shit.
The whole show. Remember in Blue Lock, where anytime it would cut to like a wide shot of the characters running, they would just look like these shitty 3D CG models?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the whole show.
Fuck.
The whole show is those shitty 3D CG models.
I mean, props to them for trying.
Oh, it's dog shit, dude. It's shit for the birds.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it at all.
Well,
it was crap.
The one thing I want to throw out there in its defense, based on what you said,
Yes.
Demon Slayer, right? They just send average humans into battle with these demons.
Yes.
It's like, oh, they can use a sword and breathing techniques. They can fight demons and shit. But you mentioned this gauntlet thing that they use to enhance their strength,
right.
You know, bump themselves up a tier.
Right.
And I think that makes a little bit more sense.
So, speaking of the gauntlet, I did a little bit of reading on this because I was like, did fans like this? It's very divided, but it seems that a lot of fans actually really don't like this adaptation because it borrows some of the elements of the video games, but basically does it all wrong. So, like, apparently the way they do the gauntlet in the show is like, you can use the gauntlet, but it's a negative to use it. It's not good for you. Whereas in the video games, it's like that's your main like buff. That's your main power up.
Yeah.
So it's not a negative. It's the opposite. It's a huge positive. But they portray it in the show like it's a risk reward. Like it's killing you for using it. So you can't use it for long. But like none of that shit's in the video game series. And they don't even bother to use any of the actual video game characters for some fucking reason. Like that's such a baffling decision. It's like, imagine the Castlevania. Like, let's compare it to Castlevania, for example. So imagine they did the Castlevania anime adaptation, and they're like, yeah, we've got a million different Belmonts and a million different characters in this franchise. Let's not use any of them, and let's just make up a new Belmont. Let's do fucking John Belmont that was never in the series. You know what I mean?
I'd like to think that he'd be the coolest.
Yeah, let's use Justin Belnades, another seer that was never, like, don't. Like, here, I'm going to throw this out to all like future filmmakers and creators of popular media. If you get the license to use a beloved franchise, know that you are holding something very delicate and sacred in your hands. And you don't have the right to invent new characters when there's already a million characters to work with. If you're going to invent a new character for the franchise, you better fucking do it right, and they better be an incredible addition to the lore. Otherwise, fuck right off. So, yeah, I guess it's a terrible adaptation of Onimusha.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in layman's terms, stick to the fucking script.
No, literally. And I genuinely was interested in this because I know very little about the video game franchise. I know it's like the original game was like conceived as like a Resident Evil with samurais, which that sounds fascinating to me. Which I was like, okay, that's intriguing, but I still haven't gotten into that series. So I wanted to love this because it was going to be a good entry point for me into the lore of the series, but it's not that. It follows a character that's not in the series. It fucks with the lore and it's not even accurate. And the show sucks in terms of animation and in terms of action. And it's crap. It's a fucking failure. Yeah.
I mean,
did not like it.
Just a little positive note.
Not recommending it.
Now, if you go to play the game will just be that much better.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't believe the cutscenes in the video game were so much fucking better, dude. It was like embarrassing.
Yeah, that's
fucking
awful.
Literally, Kevin and I were like, dude, we were like, let's just watch this. We watched like 20 minutes of somebody did a compilation. It was like all the cutscenes from the first video game, which was like, I don't know, an hour and a half video or something. Yeah. We watched like the first 20 minutes. We're like, this is way more engaging. The art direction was better. The scene composition, the shots, the angles, the animation, the choreography, everything was so much better in a PS2 video game cutscene.
So what you're saying
embarrassing
is skip the anime And just go on YouTube and watch one of these compilations of the
Or
cutscenes.
or literally just play the video game series.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually recommending the video game over the fucking anime. So there you go.
That's fair. Yeah.
That's my next
Wow.
pick. What do you got next?
All right.
I'll throw it back to you right away.
So I'm going to jump into one that I maybe didn't like, but I had high hopes for.
What do you got?
Kingdoms of Ruin.
Kingdom again, another one I have not fucking heard of. These you pull
So-
these out of your ass.
This one is almost like medieval-esque, but like it's also kind of futuristic. They have like teleporters and shit. But so to get into the plot, we follow Adonis, who is the dark-haired boy there. And he's a
this
young
looks
boy
wild.
traveling with a witch because there are witches in this world. And when God created witches and humans, he said that they must live alongside each other. Witches with their magical powers would aid humans and make their lives better and achieve balance between each other for a peaceful world.
So this is like an alternate history universe where it's like there's
Essentially.
modern tech, but there's also like fantasy elements.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like they've literally got like a typical like kingdom, like castle and shit, but
Right.
it's all like futuristic tech. and
People have
whatnot.
like guns and shit.
Yeah,
Okay.
like walkie-talkies and like headsets and shit.
Okay, so this is just
Even like video
this
cameras.
is just like wild then.
Yeah.
Okay.
So witches and humans are supposed to live alongside each other to achieve peaceful existence. And should they not do that, ruin would come to the world. Or so God states. So we start out following Adonis and his teacher, Chloe, who is a witch. Adonis is just a regular boy. And she teaches him magic. But for humans to use magic, they need a special item. In his case, it's a quill, like pen and ink. He can write spells out in magic, and it casts these spells for him. They're traveling. Witches are being executed. So they're in hiding. Because Chloe can't be discovered. They'll kill her. And don't they get caught? And right before young Adonis's eyes, she's murdered. Like head lopped off in front of him. It's brutal. And then they lock him up in jail. Like secluded from all society. All he has is his thoughts. He's basically in like a VR simulation where he's just plotting his revenge against the humans. And all he has is these visions of what he intends to do and like plotting out every step of his plan, what he'll do when he escapes. And they've got this like group of witches in a cell all awaiting execution. Like occasionally they pull one, they kill one.
Why in the future are witches like banned again? Like what is the rationale again?
Their technology's advanced, they no longer need them. And they're,
they're just like,
afraid
we're
that the
gonna-
witches will revolt and kill them.
So they're like, we're gonna kill all magic users, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
No other reason.
Magic is the
than-
enemy of the state
Yeah.
kind of idea.
They're like, we don't need that anymore, so
Right.
they could turn on us and become a threat.
Sure, why not?
So they kind of jump the gun and try to take them out first.
Right.
So through some twist of fate, one of the witches is headed for execution. She takes the place of one of her friends, and she manages to get away. And she just happens to stumble upon Adonis, and she frees him. And she breaks him out of his like VR simulation. And he finds his magic item, and immediately just starts fucking destroying everything. Like, immediately goes to taking revenge on the humans. Be it like firing a gun and immediately using a spell to like make the bullet 100 times larger, so it's literally like a torpedo ripping through a fucking building. Just
So
slaughtering
he
everybody.
also is a magic user?
No, he has a magic item that allows him to use magic.
Okay.
So, he's going about all of this.
This sounds like complete madness.
It really is. So,
Why is it every one of your animes are just like complete fucking madness?
I signed up for the revenge, but I'm very quickly going to get into why I don't like it.
Okay, all right.
So, he's attacking the city. People are dying left, right, center. And they reveal that they have this device that can turn off magic. But it's kind of a risk reward. You can turn it on and prevent witches from using magic or even Adonis from using his magic item. But whoever is in like the immediate vicinity of that machine is essentially going to experience so much radioactivity they will either die or live uncomfortably until they die, succumb to their injuries. But that's the basic plot. Just that's
basic.
That's it.
Yeah, basic.
He
Complete
wants
madness.
all humans dead.
This is a this is a sci-fi, fantasy, magic, science fiction world. What?
Yeah.
That's the basic premise. The basic premise is we've got witches and science fiction in the same world. Okay, yeah sure.
Now, I liked the idea of the anti-hero.
Right?
They took it too far. His sole purpose is just fucking revenge now. He'll step on anybody to get his revenge.
Did you finish this show?
No, God, no.
Okay.
I stopped
no.
about
Wow.
halfway.
Okay.
Now, I'll jump into that.
It doesn't sound particularly interesting. From
Well, it
what
gets
you
worse.
Said. It's
Okay?
just like, eh.
The end of almost every one of the first, 4 or 5 episodes, they kill Adonis. It's everyone. It's like, whether we see perhaps his head get cut off, but he somehow comes back from it. But they justify it with another cutscene of what actually happened. The next episode ends with him potentially dying again to somehow survive by the time you start the next episode. But worry not, because the next episode ends with him almost fucking dying again and somehow, once again, miraculously escaping through anime fuckery. It's too much. It's totally unnecessary. Killing off the main character every damn episode.
Multiple. It's
I
basically
can
like
handle once.
Yeah, it's like the shonen trope where the main protagonist is like dead, when he first is like the new big bad, and then he gets killed, but then it awakens. It's like Goku when he goes Super Saiyan. It's like, he's on the brink of death, and then all of a sudden he hits this new ceiling, and that's a big trope,
Yeah. This one, it's like
Bleach does it all the fucking time, where characters are on the brink of death, and
like
they tap.
Ichigo literally being cut in half and shit.
Yep. They tap into some. When did he get cut?
Well, he didn't get cut clean in half. His spine was intact, but it was like the Rukia rescue arc.
Who does that?
Byakuya, I believe. Was it Byakuya? No. It might have been Aizen.
Is that one?
It was one of them.
I don't remember.
Whatever. It was like right around the time
Whatever.
that
It's a
Aizen was
trope.
like, I'm the big bad. I'm not actually dead.
Whatever. It's a big trope of fucking animes in general, where it's like characters are on the brink of death and then they tap into some new ability.
Yeah, it's totally fucking unnecessary.
Yeah. Well, it's unnecessary to do it 10 million times, that's for sure.
Yeah. But that was fucking ridiculous. On top of the fact that the witches live on the moon now. It's like his whole purpose is to live to avenge his teacher. He's offered the opportunity very early on to resurrect her. He is the only one that can do it because they need his memories to resurrect her. And he doesn't fucking do it and then destroys any means of ever bringing her back to life. It's like, you were obsessed with her. You had an opportunity to bring her back.
Little fucking
You could have
short-sighted.
sought revenge together.
Right.
In fact, you were working with the witches who wanted revenge on the fucking humans.
Right.
But he kills them too. Like, what are you working for?
Why does he kill the witches? Or he just...
Exactly my fucking question.
It was inadvertent? Like he just...
He slaughters them all because he was like, oh, they were going to make us slaves to help them kill the humans. Like, who fucking cares?
They were on your side.
Your goal was the same.
Exactly. Who cares? Let them do their own thing.
Instead, he fucking...
So it's a shitty protagonist.
Exactly.
It's just a shitty protagonist.
It's complete fucking nonsense.
It's a shitty protagonist, and it sounds like an uninteresting plot, too.
Yeah. It's like, I signed on for the revenge. And then within a couple episodes, I was like, fuck, I don't know if I want to watch this anymore.
Right.
But I got that 3-episode rule. And then they tried to kill him like 3 times in the first 3 fucking episodes. And I'm like, I don't know if I can look past this.
So it's like one man against the world?
Yeah, basically. Or at least he makes it
Who's
that
the
way.
fucking pink chick on the
That's
fucking
the one that
poster?
broke him out of jail.
Okay.
She dies in like the first fucking episode.
Why are they putting her on the fucking poster? Like she's
Because
a main
he
protagonist.
resurrected her in his teacher's fucking place for no reason.
Oh, okay.
It's like, why is she the only one you're keeping alive?
Right.
That's not even the witch you cared about. Like,
Right.
you were literally in love with your teacher.
Right.
Why the fuck are you bringing her back? You don't even know her.
Right.
And they made it seem like, oh, you have all these lovely memories of her, and it's enough to bring her back. He met her for 5 fucking minutes, and he somehow resurrected her full of her own fucking memories.
Right.
It's like, if that were the case, they didn't need him to resurrect his teacher in the first place. It's a huge fucking plot hole. So it was just
This sounds
awful.
terrible.
It fucking is. Don't waste your time.
The Kingdoms of Ruin.
Yeah, they ruined the fucking plot.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. A ruined anime. It's as lame as you think. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds terrible.
It is.
How to ruin an anime. Yeah. This podcast is sponsored by the fine folks at Fly By Night Movies, Games, and Toys. Fly By Night Movies, Games, and Toys is your one-stop shop for everything cool and collectible. We are located in the heart of downtown Oshawa. That is Oshawa, Ontario, Canada. If you're looking for movies, video games, and toys, check us out. We are worth the drive.
But what's your next pick?
Well, let's come out of that. Let's go from a ruined, terrible anime to one of the best animes I've watched in the last decade. Not to hype it up too much. I watched, again, Netflix production. I watched Pluto.
I've seen this, or I haven't seen it. I've
Okay.
heard
I
of
was
it.
like, oh, you saw it? We watched one at the same time? Pluto.
It is,
this one right here.
It's also on my watch list.
Pluto. I don't want to hype it up too much, but I loved this anime. Like I said, this is one of the best animes I've watched in the last decade. It is phenomenal. It is a fucking masterpiece. Allow me to gush about it for the next little bit. So, for those that don't know, it was written by Naoki Urasawa, which if you're not familiar with that name, I don't blame you. It's not a hugely well-known name, but he honestly should be. He's an incredible manga artist / writer. He is the creator of the critically acclaimed, phenomenal series known as Monster. Do you remember me talking about Monster?
I do, yeah.
The one about the serial killer.
The
gets
one that would
bullet in
be
the
a
brain?
good live action, right?
Yes. Monster, which is right now streaming on Netflix. So I would say that's probably what one of his most well-known is Monster. This is probably his other really well-known work that he did. So, are you familiar with Astro Boy at all?
I am, yeah.
Oh, you actually do know a little bit about Astro Boy.
A little bit, yeah.
What did you watch? Like probably the early 2000s anime they did?
It was so long ago, I don't remember.
Okay, but Astro Boy is it's like a manga / anime series, I want to say from the 60s, 70s. It's one of the, might even be from the fucking 50s, honestly. It's one of the oldest and longest running pieces of franchises in Japanese pop culture. It's about a little robot boy named Astro Boy / named Atom, as I just learned. I didn't know this. Pluto, this is so fucking fascinating. Pluto is Naoki Urasawa. It is a reinterpretation or an adaptation or a remake, if you want to call it that, of a famous Astro Boy arc. So it's debatably the most popular and famous Astro Boy arc is this arc called The Greatest Robot on Earth. And that's from I think that arc is from the 70s or something. And Naoki got permission from the estate that owned Astro Boy, and specifically the creator's son, to make his own retelling of this series, and he called it Pluto. And Astro Boy is very for children. It is kind of like Dragon Ball aesthetic. It's more cutesy. It's more like tongue in cheek. This was a dark arc for Astro Boy, but it's still not gritty. It's not really like gritty and dark and adult. Naoki takes that original material and makes it dark and gritty and adult. It's the equivalent of like, imagine Dragon Ball is the original story in Astro Boy, and the darkest arc in Dragon Ball Z, like the Cell Saga, when it's like at its grittiest, the androids show up and all that shit. That's like the Pluto version, where it's like much darker in tone and much more adult. And it is, I love, so sorry, my brain is going a mile a minute here because I'm like, there's so much I want to talk about this. This is just going to be me gushing, folks. I don't have a lot of negatives.
I can feel the excitement.
Yeah, you can feel the excitement. I know. So I love that idea. I love that concept that like this guy took this original old, probably a little campy, simple cartoon, and he modernized it and made it more. It made it more adult and just made it more serious. You know, he took what was already a beautiful story that was beloved by fans and then gave a different tone to it and treated it a little bit more seriously and made it a little bit more adult. That is fucking awesome. So I like the premise behind it. The plot of the original, like the basic plot in the original arc is there's this guy that creates this giant robot named Pluto. That's like this giant monstrosity. You can actually kind of see it on the poster there. See like the big horned robot there that's looking
based on the appearance, I'm guessing that's the big bad.
That's the big bad. That's Pluto.
Yeah.
And this guy creates this like giant, terrifying robot with horns named Pluto. And he sends Pluto on a mission to destroy the 7 most advanced robots in the world. One of which is Adam. Adam is Astro Boy.
Yep.
And Pluto goes around and systematically starts killing each one of these like robots. It's almost like Mega Man. You know, like you ever playing the Mega Man games?
I have, yeah.
You know, like the Robot Masters.
Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine like the Robot Masters were the top robots in the world, but then Wily sent out this one ultra robot to take them all. Like one robot to rule them all. The greatest robot on Earth, if you will. That's the basic premise of the original arc. Pluto recontextualizes it by not focusing on Astro Boy as the main character, but instead focusing on a character that was in the original story, but was not one of the like forefront characters. It is a German robot who works for Interpol, which is like, you know, the Europe police force that tackles like all of the European nations.
Yep.
And the character's name is Gesich. He is a like stereotypical-ish blonde looking, you know, of that descent, of that region of Europe. But he's a German robot and he is a detective. And so the basic premise of one robot going around taking out all the other robots is now turned into a murder mystery where it slow rolls the whole story through the eyes of a robot detective trying to solve the murders of these robots, of these advanced super robots, basically. Yeah. That's fucking awesome. So I love that idea.
He's kind of like a robot Holmes, if you will.
Yeah, but it's played, so it plays out like a serious mystery detective show. The pacing of this show is perfect. It is brilliant. It is a slow burn. It takes its time. It never rushes. It gives you shitloads of time with each one of the characters. The way it works is like every episode kind of highlights another one of so there's the 7 most advanced robots in the world. They're like, I can't remember what they call them in the show, but they're the world's most advanced robots. And the backstory behind Pluto there's this horrible war that took place known as the 39th Central Asian War. And it was between the United States of Thracia and Persia. Basically what happened was Persia was this much smaller nation. It was like, this is literally what it sounds like. It was like a Middle Eastern type nation. And United States of Thracia, I don't know if that's supposed to be the United States of America. Like, I'm not sure if it's, but it's they're more like the non-Aryan type, what's the word I'm looking for? You know, like that region, the desert regions of the world. What is that fucking region called? You know, like where Iran, Middle Eastern. Sorry, it's like the non-Middle Eastern nations, right? Okay, and United States of Thracia, through some fucked up means, sees Persia as a threat, and they basically make up these trumped up accusations as a justification to invade and like take over that and just like annihilate that nation. And 6 of the, I want to call them robot masters, but they're not robot masters, but I so badly want to use Mega Man terminology. But 6 of the super robots of the world end up getting enlisted in this war and they don't kill humans. That's very important. In this world, robots are not allowed to kill humans. And they get enlisted, and it is a fucked up situation because basically these robots are forced to destroy homes of actual people. They obliterate their own fellow machines, their own fellow robots, and it fucks up all of the robots in different ways. And what ends up happening is they slow roll it where every episode kind of highlights another one of these robots and how they're coping post that awful, like horrific war. And they give you time with that character. They develop each one of the robots. You get a sense for who they are, their feelings. They treat them like humans. When I say robots, they are advanced AI robots. They look and act like humans to the point where you wouldn't even know they are robots for the most part.
Yeah.
We're talking the most advanced AI imaginable, okay? And every episode, another one of them becomes one of Pluto's victims. It starts off with like, I can't remember who the first one is, but it's like, that's the origin. That's the first episode. It's like, that's what kickstarts all this, is one of them immediately gets destroyed. And it's like one of the great 7, one of the strongest, and he just gets obliterated. Like it was nothing, which is insane. But even more dark, it's not just the robots. Oh, Mont Blanc. That's the name of the first one. It's like a Swiss robot that's like a naturist, and it's like trying to like has all these projects to like help the environment.
Yeah.
And Mont Blanc is like this beloved robot by its people. And even more fucked up, it's not just robots being killed. It's also the human companions of the robots, which is very unsettling because basically it's nigh impossible / unheard of for any robots to kill humans.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing, even in the war. There has been a few cases, but they're so isolated and rare that it's like, oh my God, this can't be a thing. But if this is a thing, we have to treat this so seriously. So the governments are investigating this with all of their manpower to try to solve this, because this is the implications are like astounding. If this, depending on the result of this, like this could have gigantic ramifications through the world, right?
Yeah. So in a sense, it's kind of like their worst case scenario.
Because robots are an everyday culture. There's helper robots everywhere, but almost none of them have what you would call consciousness. But that is a big theme in the show. Is like there's levels of intelligence and levels of consciousness of the different robots, and the 7 great ones, they're like, they could just pass for humans, basically. But then you have other robots in the show where their AI is pretty good, but nowhere near what the 7 are at, but it's still pretty impressive. And then you have other robots that are just straight up like automaton, like, you know, basic functions, can't think for themselves. It's almost like a remote control thing, you know?
Yeah.
But robots are in everyday life for humans. We are in a it is a technologically advanced, futuristic society, but it's not the nihilistic dystopia of fucking Laserhawk. It's much more optimistic and positive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
I think so.
It's not as bleak. It's not like a corrupt government that controls everything you hear or see. It's not like that at all. It's just like we live in a future where robots have advanced to the point where they can pass as human, and we use them for everyday activities, and they've integrated into a side. They're part of our culture and part of our society, you know. And we live in a futuristic world where we've got like tech that is way more advanced than what we have now. Okay, this is definitely a futuristic world. The animation, which was done by what seems like a relatively unknown studio, Studio M2, which I looked up their resume. They have like fuck all on their resume. This show is fucking gorgeous. Gorgeous. Beautiful animations. Realistic character designs. Now, it was based on a manga, and it was based on a god tier manga creator. I don't know if Urasawa is an illustrator, or if he's just like the writer or whatever. I'm assuming he is also an illustrator. His art style is like very realistic. It's one of the best art styles I've ever seen, where nothing is exaggerated. All of the people look like people. No one looks beautiful in his world, which I love. They all look like realistic humans, where there's no perfect people. Everybody has flaws in their skin and in their body, and they have, like, some characters will have big noses, and some characters will have odd eyebrows, like their facial structures. He draws very realistic looking people. You know what I mean? They're not the perfect how to draw manga, how to draw anime characters, generic aesthetic.
Yeah.
They're not those character designs. He draws very realistic, proportioned, and realistic looking people. And that lends itself so much to his work. So I love that art style, but this is a fucking gorgeous anime. The action sequences are phenomenal. The character designs are phenomenal. Just top tier all around. Absolute top tier. My only nitpick, I think the pacing is brilliant. I'm not going to give spoilers here. I watched the whole thing. It's only going to be the one season. There is not going to be they adapted the whole story. So the story's done now.
I was actually going to ask about that because I saw it said TV miniseries.
It's a miniseries. So. Yeah, there's no second season coming. This is a one and done. I do think they reveal everything. Everything gets revealed. Part of the problem is every episode is an hour, and I think there's eight episodes, so it's like 8 hours of content. When you get, like, everything doesn't really get revealed. They slow roll all the mysteries as Gasich slowly uncovers more and more, and it will shift perspectives, and suddenly we'll follow this robot for an episode or two, or we'll follow Pluto for an episode or two, or like half the episode is going to be Pluto, and the other half is Gasich's perspective. Or sorry, not Pluto. Adam is who I meant to say. Adam, who's Astro Boy. The problem is, by the time you get to the ending where they start revealing everything, there's a lot to unpack. And I legitimately, even after I watched it, was a little confused as to what the fuck actually happened. It's very convoluted by the end. Like, it starts off as a simple premise. It's like someone is hunting these robot masters, whatever the fuck you want to call them. Why? Who's doing it and why? We got to figure that out. That's the mystery.
Yeah.
But then we get the political backstory that happened before all this. We get character backgrounds. We get what they're currently doing now. And then we get, like, there's a villain, and then there's another villain, and then that villain isn't the true villain, so it becomes it's like layers of plot, and it becomes very confusing by the end, I think, to a fault. I think it just becomes a little bit too much of a mess in terms of the ending. That's my personal take.
Okay.
I highly recommend it. It's a fucking masterpiece, dude. It's incredible. It's really incredible. If you are turned off, like I never would get into Astro Boy because to me it's too kiddie. It's just not for me. I don't like that tone. But if you take Astro Boy and you give it to the guy who created fucking Monster, which is one of the best mature animes and mangas and stories ever fucking made, and he gives you art. You know what I mean? Like he takes those like this image right here perfectly summarizes like my feeling to the show. You take a goofy, cartoony-ish character and completely redo it and bring it into a mature adult world, and it's brilliant. It is a brilliant reinterpretation of a character. It is a brilliant remake of a series, of an arc. It's just it's an achievement. And I mean, I'm not alone. I mean, the Pluto is like insanely well regarded as a manga. Like it's so. This was definitely hyped for a lot of people. I saw the trailer. I didn't know anything about Pluto. Like I didn't know. I was like, the guy who made Monster made a fucking Astro Boy manga series. Like what? But when I saw the trailer, I was just like, holy shit! Sign me up. So there you go. That's a big recommendation.
Wow. Well, so you said that they take the time to let you get to know the characters, right?
Oh, fuck yeah, they do. Pacing, it's beautiful.
To kill them off.
Right.
So would that not make it just a tad darker?
Oh,
allowing you to build that connection with a character just to see them die?
Oh, it does. And a few times, it's genuinely heartbreaking where you're like, no, because it's like you forget. I mean, that's just the form. Like a lot of robots die. I'm not going to spoil who dies and who doesn't, but a lot of characters, even the ones you think are safe. Yeah, I got caught off guard by a few deaths. They hit hard. Yeah, there was a few that legitimately hit hard.
I might move this one up the watch list a little bit.
It's incredible, dude. It's fucking incredible.
Like, I mean, like
you don't have to give a fuck about Astro Boy like this.
But like,
he's not even the main character.
No?
Oh, no. Adam, he's like, again, the main character is Gasich. Adam is like one of the recurring characters. I would say he's a secondary protagonist. He doesn't even take the limelight until like the last couple episodes.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. He just keeps popping up every once in a while. And you're just like, oh, the pacing is just so perfect. Where like every episode perfectly sets up the next episode. So like one episode will end with like Gasich, he's like seeing a little boy like playing with like a snail or something, and then he like crouches down, and then the little boy looks at him. He's like, "Hello, Adam," and you're just like, oh, "It's fucking Astro Boy," and then cut. That's it.
Oh shit!
And so it's like every episode, like it's like perfectly sets up the next one, where you just get like a little bit more. Like oh, it's great. Yeah, the pacing is like masterclass.
Yeah, well, I mean.
It's
even
nice.
just looking at the animation here alone, like
God tier, just gorgeous. Yeah, gorgeous like illustrations. Yeah, gorgeous character designs. Yeah, watch it. How many more picks you got on your show? There you go, folks. That's Justin gushes about an anime. Yeah, how many you got left? Two. I also got 2 left. Why don't we just go back and forth? All
right, sounds good.
You're up again. What do you got?
So this one was actually my favorite of the season.
Oh my God, what if it's like, man, what if it's my next one? It's possible.
Shangri La Frontier.
No, I don't know what the fuck that is. Okay. What is Shangri La Frontier? I've never heard of this.
So this one is, it's technically an isekai, but it's not the typical bullshit that I bring you. So I don't actually remember his character name. I remember his video game character name is Sunraku. So Sunraku is what they call a trash game connoisseur. And trash games are games that are full of bugs and glitches and are essentially unplayable or are just so dick-breakingly hard that nobody wants to play them. So just the absolute
they're like
bottom of the barrel.
They're like an
games.
art unto themselves. That is a whole culture. I know that.
Yeah.
There's people that love borderline broken video games that are just like funny, basically.
Yeah.
It's become an art form unto itself. Like,
So
yeah, I do know what you're referring to. That culture.
yeah, he's one of those. And we start out. We're following him in one of the games that he plays, which I don't recall the name of because we don't see a lot of it. But he ends the game, he kills the big bad, and he turns around to this princess that he's been traveling with or whatever. And she's like, yeah, you did it. You saved us. And he goes, yeah, but I know that you're the true villain of this story, and beats the shit out of her before the credits roll. No relevance to the actual video game he was playing. The game wraps up. He goes to buy his next game where he reveals to the owner of the video game store.
So we start off with this is a guy in the real world. This is not like
Yes, he
okay.
plays VR games.
Okay.
So he goes to the video game store to buy his next trash game.
Is this like a student?
He's a student. He's like high school age.
Okay, this is the stereotypical like high school young adult. Yeah, okay.
So he reveals to this the owner of the store that in this game it was so bad because you're running around with this princess who insists you take down this evil wizard because he's causing havoc for the people. And he goes, but the whole fucking game, she's causing more problems than he is. It's like she runs over a civilian with her horse-drawn carriage. And then she goes, curse you, dark wizard. And he goes, but it's okay because you get slow rolled. Like, you have to balance out her emotions. And you have to keep her, like, she has to hold you in high regard, basically. Because if not, she'll cry for hours on end, like hours of gameplay, until you restore this relationship with her and you can progress through the story. And he said there's a 10-second window after you beat the final boss and before the credits roll where you can beat the shit out of her character with no consequence, which leads us to that opening cutscene.
That's funny. So he almost like discovers like a bug in the game and like an exploit and takes advantage of it. Like a funny like bug thing that wasn't patched out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's funny.
But we immediately learn what kind of person he is.
Right.
So he's looking for his next trash game, and she doesn't have any new ones for him this time. And she suggests, hey, maybe instead of a trash game, why don't you try something good for once?
Why don't you play a good video game?
And he goes, what? Like, where would I even start with that? And she goes, well, how about the #1 video game right now, Shangri La Frontier? So he buys himself a copy. He goes into this game, and he makes this character in his boxers with a bird mask.
With a bird, yeah, like the bird head here, yeah.
And he doesn't play like a typical player. But before I get into that, I'm going to take a second to gush about the animation. It's incredible. The choreography is even fucking better.
Really? So it's like top tier animation.
It's so good.
Really?
Like, he loads into this game. The first thing that happens is he meets a rabbit. It's like little tiny bunny that you wouldn't see as a threat, who is like, it's a couple levels above his character, and it moves fast. And he exploits his knowledge of like bugs in other games to help himself kind of close that level gap. But as this bunny's like attacking him and shit, the way he's fighting it, it's so beautifully choreographed. But on top of that, he's fighting it and he manages to connect with its neck. And when it does this super cool thing. It pops up critical. Every time they do that, it's just amazing. It's so perfectly placed. Him landing these critical blows. It's just perfect. And it only happens if he hits, a critical point.
Yeah.
Or
in just the right spot.
If, say, he exploits like an enemy weakness, for example, there's a snake with scales as tough as armor, and he uses an item that creates a small break in one of the scales, but then when he follows up attacking that spot, it's critical after critical because it's a weakness now. And it's just little shit like that that is just amazing about this anime. But anyway, back to the actual story. So he doesn't play as a typical character. He's supposed to go to the tutorial town. But on the way, he encounters this bunny, and he goes, wow, that thing's weapon was kind of cool. So he starts hunting down these bunnies, slaughtering them, leveling up, like organizing his skill points wherever the hell he wants them. And he gets one. He goes, but I kind of want a second one because I'm going to dual wield these cool daggers. And through this process of him trying to track down this second dagger, he ends up closer to the second town and way out of the way of this tutorial city. So he goes, fuck it. I'm just going to go on. I'm not going to go to the tutorial. And he encounters...
I kind of love this character already.
Yeah.
Because he kind of plays a little like how I play video games. Where
Right?
I'm just like, fuck it. Let's go for it.
I've come too far to go back.
Let's just figure it out. I'll figure it out as I go. Because that was a thing back in the day with video games. Is like, yeah, we had manuals. We didn't read them as kids. You were figuring the controls out as you played. You went, okay, R button does this, L button does this. Oh, that enemy gives, like, you legitimately, because I mean, you had nothing but time in your hands.
Yeah.
There was no high-speed internet. We would play for all day. You would literally, I remember doing gaming sessions that were all day. And so, like, I kind of love this character and the way he plays, because that's the way, like, I play.
Yeah.
You just figure it out as you go, like.
Right, he truly is a lovable character.
And I already like the idea of, like, I like this thing, so I'm going to make that my thing. And fuck it, that's how I'm going to play. Like, that's awesome. Yeah, that's great.
So,
like, it's character, it's personality,
So he goes up against this boss. It's recommended you be like level 10.
Right.
And at this point, he's like level 6 or 7. And it's also recommended you attack it with a party. He goes to take on this boss, and it truly comes out how skillful he is at other video games. Like how far his trash game abilities have brought him here. Because he's exploiting all this shit that nobody else would think of. Because everybody else played the tutorial. They don't think outside the box.
So they're all playing the game straight. He's playing...
He's being very creative.
Yeah.
And he manages to take down this boss, but he gets poisoned. Now he has to run all the way to the second town before he dies, or his respawn point is back in the forest near Town 1. So he's got to make it all the way into town and to a hotel and go to sleep. So his spawn point is at the bed, and it doesn't reset his character. So to sum it up, the plot is just him playing this game to do whatever it is that you do in this game. Or so we think.
And he meets other characters. You can see the poster. There's all kinds of eccentric characters on it and shit.
He discovers secrets that most players wouldn't. So essentially the plot becomes...
Does the show just turn into he's just in the video game and we never get to see him outside the video game
He does
anymore?
leave the video game.
Okay, so
like
we
meet his family. We meet the girl that is in love with him, who also happens to be a high-level player in the game.
Oh, so they actually give you both worlds?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So it's not like Sword Art where it's like, no, the entire season you're just stuck in the video
to
game.
gush again, there was a scene in his high school. And I love when 2D animation, they do like that awesome camera pan that makes the entire world look 3D. And like, it wasn't even like they attempted this camera pan. They fucking nailed it. It was so gorgeously smooth. Just angling from one hallway around a corner to see his love interest. Like, trying to work up the courage to talk to him. It's just gorgeous. But
you watched all the first season?
It's still going.
Okay. Because I just looked up Shangri La Frontier Season 2, and I can't find any information. So I'm not seeing anything. I don't know. Like, I mean, that's not really saying anything. You said it's still going. It's not even done. So then, like,
I think
who
we're on
knows,
like
Stuart?
15, 16 episodes.
It's hard
right
to
now.
say, yeah. But you're still actively watching it.
Yes.
And you're still
absolutely.
And you're still loving it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like, so it's basically you just get to see a character play a video game outside the box, and it's like really fun, like frenetic, like fight scenes and creative, like problem solving, and a fun character to root for.
Absolutely.
And so, I mean, that's not that enough. Sounds like it. I'm gonna give it a chance. I've just added it to my list.
Well, this is exactly the one I said you might like.
You got one. You got me. You got me on one. I added it to my list there, Johnny. I like the way this character thinks. I like the way this character plays.
Yeah.
I like that creative ways of beating bosses and things like that. Like, I love it. And I'm a video game.
Oh, dude, it only gets fucking better. Like,
so, yeah, I'm excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The plot does kind of change a little bit.
I assume it has to. It has to evolve.
Because it can't just be him playing a game.
It can't just be him playing a video game. Yeah, you got to get
so
more of that.
He ends up discovering, I believe they are called unique monsters. There are like 7 of them or something. Or maybe it was only 4. I don't recall. We've only actually met 1. And he stumbles upon it, and it's this like massive tiger in the mountains. And it just looks fucking terrifying. And of course, he tries to fight it. But nobody has ever managed to kill one of these things. He puts up a fight, lands a bunch of critical hits, but ultimately, he loses. And while he's laying there, because he, if I remember correctly, he focuses on like agility and luck in his stats. So he mostly sticks with that. He doesn't put fuck all into HP or like defense or anything. It's all agility and luck.
And luck.
So this thing landed what would have been a fatal blow, but his luck managed to land him with 1 HP. And this thing acknowledged him and cursed him, which is like when you look at the character, he has all those like marks on him.
Okay.
That's the curse, which prevents him from wearing armor. So now his luck agility build is a little more dangerous because he isn't upping his defense or health. He had some armor, but now he can't even wield it because of the curse.
Interesting.
And he finds like secrets in the game, which lead to other characters, player killers, specifically wanting him dead because he won't reveal how he discovered the secret. Which the secret actually links up with his bunny obsession. I won't go into too much detail on that.
How excited are you for this future where we're eventually just gonna Neuralink into fucking video games and actually be in real VR video game worlds?
Be so fucking cool.
I mean, honestly, like the world of Sword Art, like, can that just happen soon? Like, can we just have Netgears and we just put it on and our consciousness just goes into the fucking game and we're actually in? Like, genuinely, I want this. I want this to happen. I am excited for this eventual future where we're all just going to neural link into our fucking computers and our video game consoles and just be in the world, and feel and breathe and smell the digital world, like the space that's been created. Like, there's a reason this is a isekais. There's a reason this is a popular anime genre because it is a fucking fun fantasy to think about, to dream about. Like I want this to happen. I want this reality. That's what I'm saying. He was like, dude, how fucking fun is it going to be when our weekly game session just turns into us in some fantasy
on
world,
helmets.
right? Fucking around and doing stupid shit like challenges like this, like trying to get bunny weapons and shit. Like I can't fucking wait for this to happen.
No, it'd be fucking amazing.
No,
like,
I'm stoked. I want this to be a thing. So yeah.
They are actually making a video game about this.
Oh, okay.
Now,
interesting.
I don't think they're gonna do it the way I want them to.
Right.
I want the game. The game looks fucking incredible.
Like the actual game, yeah.
But I'm pretty sure they're just gonna make us play as Sun Raku.
And play through the story.
Yeah. Like the anime is cool, but I could just watch the anime.
Right.
You
So
know?
you might as well
Give me the
the
fucking
game's
game.
not gonna do much. So what is the tone of this? Is this like akin to something like, is it very tongue in cheek? Is it kind of like a One Punch Man or
So it's not quite like One Punch
or
Man.
Mashal, or like what would you compare this to, tone wise? Because it looks very farcical when I saw the like based on the poster.
I don't even know, because like he's OP, but like he's not really OP. Like he can die.
Yeah, but is it comedic? Like
a little bit.
It must be, right? Because I mean, a guy beats the princess up. Like
yeah. So to some extent, it is kind of comedic.
Because like Sword Art Online is not comedic.
Yeah.
So it's not. It's very serious.
It's definitely not as serious as SAO.
Okay, so it's probably more akin to something like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that's kind of in between. Maybe like something like, is it more like ReZero?
Yeah, a little bit.
Or even more funny than ReZero? Because ReZero's got a lot of humor in it.
I think ReZero might actually be a little bit more kooky. Like, because most of the anime is just him kind of traveling alone.
Okay.
I mean, most of the humor is like the fact that he doesn't want the armor in the beginning of the game because he sells it to make money. Or like the fact that because he didn't do the tutorial in the beginning of the game, later on, someone has to teach him all the shit that he missed because he didn't do it.
Bother. So it's actually not very funny. This sounds like a comedy anime.
Like it's got a couple little parts, but like
it's actually more serious?
A little bit.
Wow. Okay, I wasn't expecting this.
Because like a lot of the like goofiness comes because he does actually visit some of the other trash games to like meet up with characters and like have conversations and shit. And like, for example, there's one game he goes to that was supposed to be like some sort of like medieval fighting simulator, but it ends up becoming about like bandits and shit because it was so hard for them to grind to make money that they just started looting merchants and stuff and taking over kingdoms because it was the easiest way to make cash. So the whole game is just a looting simulator. Like some of the shit they do in those games is a little more comical. But like when it comes to the actual game, like usually he'll be locked into combat and it'll be like, oh shit, like I've got to take this serious because everything I've done in these other games doesn't matter anymore.
Okay.
Like I might actually lose this fight if I don't smarten up. I've gotten too lucky so far. So it is a bit more serious. But
so somewhere between ReZero and SAO?
Yeah, okay. Somewhere in the middle there. Yeah.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about Shangri La Frontier?
So there was a whole lot of stuff that I liked. And I kind of felt like I needed to come up with something that I didn't like. Mm-hmm. And it kind of blessed me with one. There was one episode and there was like one scene for all of 10 seconds where they switched to like a chibi art style. I fucking hated it.
I hate chibi art.
It's like,
to me,
the animation is so fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't ruin it with that. Even if only a couple
I'm not
seconds.
a fan of chibi art style. It's actually one of the reasons that Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood isn't in my collection. Is that show, when it's normal animation, is like gorgeous.
Yeah.
But so much of that show relies on the chibi style, and I personally don't like chibi style. I think it's overused. I think it's a big trope in anime, and I think it's just cheap and obvious. I think it's lazy to rely on it, and it's just way too overused.
Well, it's like if you wanted to save money for your budget, I'm sure you could have done it another way.
I just don't like when they cut to the chibi style. Like I'm okay with it. You do it once, twice, in a while, but every episode you're constantly doing it. And Full Metal did that, where it's like it was constantly doing the chibi style for everything. And most people, I'm in the minority on that. Most people love chibi style cutaway shots and the comedic like things. They love that. I don't. I'm just not. It's not for me.
No, I'm with you on that. I fucking hate it.
Yeah, I don't like it. But Dragon Ball Z didn't need chibi cutscenes. It didn't need chibi cutaways. They very rarely did that shit. I don't even know if they did it ever in Dragon Ball Z.
I can't recall a scene.
In Super, they do now, I'm sure. But in Z,
I don't recall them doing it in Super either.
There you go. Yeah, there you go.
But don't quote me on that because it's been,
Yeah, and then someone in the comments can be like, actually, you guys are both
it's
right.
like you're
wrong.
a fucking idiot.
Yeah, you guys are morons. You've actually watched those shows.
But that's all I have to say about Shangri La Frontier.
I only got 2 more picks, and then
All
you
right.
got 1 more pick,
Yep.
and then we'll wrap her up. All right, my next pick is okay. Remember, I was doing convoluted names. The last one I did was very simple: Onimusha and then Pluto, and now I got another convoluted name. My next pick is this is actually the one I thought you were going to say. Frieren Beyond Journey's End.
This one's actually in my watch list.
So you haven't watched this either.
Not yet.
I find it so funny that a lot of mine, I picked them and you're like, oh, this was on my watch list, but I didn't watch it.
Yeah.
I instead chose this other fantasy one that sounded more interesting.
It's like it was just gut instinct. I was like, no, Justin's going to talk about
He's
this
going to
one.
talk about, yeah. Frieren. Okay, Frieren or Frieren, like I say, it's spelled weird. It's like Frieren.
Frieren?
Frieren? I think it's Frieren, anyways, is how they pronounce it, but Frieren. Frieren Beyond Journey's End. It is a fantastic anime. It is still going. It's not done yet. I am still watching it. I am like 2 episodes away from being caught up to date, but new episodes are still coming out. I love the fucking premise. So the first episode starts off. This is a fantasy anime. It is set in a Dungeons and Dragons-esque world. So we've got typical fantasy archetypes. We've got the heroes, like the warrior class. You've got mages. You've got elves. You've got demons. You've got dwarves. You've got clerics, which are like the priest, like the healer type. And the first episode takes place at a very unique point. Typically, most stories, especially fantasy stories, it's all about the adventure and the journey, right?
Yeah.
And it's the actual story is going to be, this is the long journey, and then the climax of the show and the story is going to be the final boss, the final obstacle they have to overcome. This show takes place right after the final boss has been defeated. So again, the title, Beyond Journey's End. So we start at the end of the journey. So Frieren is I'm sure I'm butchering the name, but whatever. Frieren is a elven mage, so she's an elf, and she was a part of a adventurer party that consisted of Himmel the hero, which was a human, and that was like your typical like warrior class. Heater the priest, who's the cleric. Eisen the dwarf, who's also a warrior, and Frieren the mage elf. So she was the mage in the party. So we have this group of heroes that has just completed a 10-year adventure together where they sought out to destroy the Demon King. The Demon King was like this all-powerful evil being. It's like a typical role-playing game antagonist or fantasy world antagonist. It's like, it was this all-encompassing, evil, bad fucking guy that was like terrorizing the world. Everybody hated this guy. Everybody wanted rid of him. He was like, he threatened humankind, blah, 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 blah. The story begins after they beat him. We don't even get to see them beat him. It immediately begins with a party celebrating their victory. And they're all being declared heroes and they're treated as such. And there's this grandiose celebration of them at this village. And the 4 members of the party, this is like, you know, the highlight of their life, this moment, this great achievement. And they have this beautiful, this beautiful moment of reflection, and they're reminiscing with each other about the party, the adventure they went on. The very adventure we never saw, keep in mind. We haven't seen any of this. We didn't get to see any of this. And they come together during the celebration and watch this beautiful meteor shower that happens every 50 years. So they have this moment together, and they decide it's now time for them to go their separate ways. But this meteor shower only happens every 50 years. And they decide to make a pact and meet again in another 50 years to once again watch the meteor shower. We then time skip ahead 50 years in the future. And Frieren, the elf, returns to the area to find that it is completely different. The village has completely changed. There are now statues memorializing her group, the party that she once knew. Their group gets together again, and elves in this world live for a very long time. Hundreds, possibly even thousands of years. Humans, on the other hand, have the exact same lifespan as you would expect. You don't really crack much more than 100.
Uh-oh.
Dwarves, on the other hand, can also live for a very long time. They can live for maybe a couple hundred years. They have maybe a quarter of what an elf can live. So once we time skip, Frieren is shocked to discover that the two human companions she had are both now old men. Old men near the end of their lives. The dwarf has also aged a little bit, but not really that noticeably. Himmel, the hero that was the stereotypical knight with a sword, the shining knight, is now a hobbled old man with a cane. And he's a shadow of his former glory. Heater is an old priest now that, again, is just this old grayed man, well on in his years. So they have another beautiful moment, and they share in the meteor shower together. And then Himmel dies. One of the heroes dies, and then they have a funeral where Frieren suddenly feels extreme remorse for not getting to know him better. Even though they shared this 10-year period together, to the two humans and the dwarf, this 10-year period, this 10-year adventure, was the most important, happiest part of their lives. But to Frieren the elf, who lives for potentially thousands of years, this was nothing. This was like a blip on her radar. So she doesn't understand why this journey meant so much to them. Because to her, it was such 10 years to an elf is absolutely nothing. 50 years to an elf is absolutely nothing. So that's why she doesn't really understand that until she comes back and realizes, oh my God, these people are Himmel just died. Now I understand why this was so important to the humans, because this was a tenth of their life.
Yeah.
Maybe even more, right? What then follows is Frieren basically reaches out to Heater the priest, and they end up kind of bonding a little bit in Heater's in his end of days. And Heater has an orphan named Fern, whose parents died. Fern's this little magic girl, and the cleric Heater is trying to teach her some spells, but there's a limit to his ability. So he asks for Frieren's help. He enlists her help to teach her how to be an effective mage, which is very difficult to do in this world. It takes years of practice and / some natural like talent. And she's slowly teaching this little girl Fern the ways of magic, the art of magic, how to be a mage. And while this is happening, Frieren is having an end-of-life bonding with Heater, and then Heater dies. But before he dies, he asks for Frieren to watch over Fern and take her under her wing. Like, he knows he's not going to be around much longer. He's aware. He's like, I'm at the end of my life. I don't have that much longer left to live. So please take this young girl under your tutelage. Frieren has never taken an apprentice before, but she begrudgingly agrees. Frieren is very cold and very matter of fact. You very rarely see her smile. She's very serious. The humans in her party are the exact opposite. They're very like boisterous and fun and a little goofy, and they don't take life so seriously, and they're very positive and optimistic and very like welcoming and warm and outgoing, and they constantly are chatting, and that's generally the environment she was around. The Ison, the dwarf, was kind of the in-between. He's like kind of halfway between fun and talkative and super serious, which is what Frieren is. She's like the opposite side of the spectrum.
Yeah.
So Frieren takes this young girl under her tutelage, and then once again, we time skip. And now the young little girl is like a young adult. She's like a teenager, and she's much more accomplished. And what the show becomes is Frieren doesn't necessarily have any particular direction in her life other than she has a hobby, which was actually suggested to her by Himmel the hero, which was the human that she befriended in her original party. Her one goal in life is to acquire as much magical knowledge as possible. That's her hobby. She just travels from town to town, region to region, soaking up different spells, which are held in grimoires. Have you ever heard the term grimoire before? Yep. So she's just trying to acquire all these grimoires for all these random spells. Some of them are the most bizarre, random, like, okay. So like one of the spells is like there's a lot of moments of levity. It's not straight seriousness, but it's not a goofy show by any means. It is, I would say it's much more serious drama than it is goofy, but it has a lot of levity in it. So like one of the spells she acquires is like you can see through clothing. It's like a pretty useless ability, but it's a spell, so she's gonna learn it.
I mean, it's useful in the wrong hands.
Yeah, right, exactly. And so the show turns into her going on this slow journey of self-discovery where she's acting as a mentor to Fern, and they end up, I won't spoil it, but they end up acquiring a few other party members, and Frieren basically creates a new party that retreads some of the path that her original party went on. And the show brilliantly balances the current timeline while interjecting flashbacks to the original journey as they're going from town to town.
Oh, so we do actually get to see a bit of that adventure.
You get to see a lot of that adventure. So they intercut. So like they'll go to a town and Frieren will see an old man and she'll go, wait a minute, I recognize you. You were that little boy from when my party came through here the first time. Because now we're talking 80 years ago that her party was like a thing.
Yeah.
So you get to see echoes of her original journey with her original party through the places that she's going through in the current time. And they will then give you a flashback of something that happened in this area or a lesson that she learned through one of her party members from the original journey, from the original adventure. And it's just a perfect way of developing the current characters while also developing characters that we never got to learn about because they die right at the beginning of the show. So I just love that format. I think it works so well for this. And they beautifully have these little callbacks. So like her original journey is kind of follows her around everywhere she goes, where like they'll go to a village and they almost always have, because they saved the entire land, there's almost always a statue of one or all of the members of her original party. But they're like old and patinaed at this point because these statues are now 80 years old.
Yeah. But
like they always will have little remnants from her like original journey that she's constantly running into. And there's just that I think that works so well for a show of like, it's a new journey after the old journey just ended, but it constantly intercuts to that original adventure to help develop all of the characters in the world and also help you grow. Like, it also helps you, what's the way to put this? It helps drive home the themes of whatever particular thing they're trying to, show you. You know, the lessons, I guess, is the way to put it. It's great. The pace of the show is really like chill and laid back. There's no Demon King to fight here. We're just talking about a character going around trying to acquire magic. She does eventually get a very specific goal she's trying to accomplish, but there's no real stakes. Not really.
Yeah.
It's more of a chill vibe. It's a slower, chill show you can watch and just kind of like mellow out and just enjoy the world. It's got really nice animation. It's kind of like a painterly animation style. It's very colorful and vibrant. The fight scenes are very good when they do happen. There's a lot of fight scenes interspersed. They give a lot of lore and logic to the world, which I appreciate. And it's clearly thought out and well written. Like they define terms, but it's never like front loaded on you. They don't just throw a bunch of bullshit at you. It slow rolls it, Yeah. They slowly open up the world, expand the world, explain the world to you. And it never feels too forced. The characters are great. All of the characters get a ton of development. And I just think it's a great concept for a show, which is like, you're basically following a nigh immortal character. And what would that be like from the perspective of a character like that? Like what would the actual reality of someone that lives for thousands of years be like? Where people you interact with are just blips.
Yeah. I would imagine like at some point it kind of be brutal, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you forge all these connections and just watch your loved ones die.
And that's kind of how the main character is, where she's super serious because she's just like, everything is just nothing around me anyways. And she becomes almost nihilistic and just kind of like whatever. But through that original, it's like she knows something important happened on that adventure she went on those years ago. And through the new journey and remembering flashbacks and callbacks of that original adventure with her original party, she's now realizing the importance of those moments that at the time she didn't understand. She didn't understand, why people said what they did and what she's recontextualizing moments that happened before through her current journey.
Yeah.
So you're literally watching a mortal character develop a sense of humanity in real time. And that's fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
It's a great show. It's a great show. I highly, highly recommend it.
I think what's fascinated me the most about it is I'm sure at like some point most people have had that moment where like you're watching a movie and the heroes beat the big bad, the journeys come to an end, and you wonder, okay, but what happened after that?
Yeah, what happens next?
And that's really fascinating.
It's a show that starts with the end of a journey. That's literally it. Yeah. It's very similar to, have you ever seen Record of Lodoss War?
I've heard of it.
No, I think I recommended it to you. So Record of I did talk about it. Yeah, I talked about it as good live action. Record of Lodoss War would totally work. So Record of Lodoss War is a masterpiece anime. It's older anime. It's from the golden era. Absolutely gorgeous. And it is the stereotypical like Dungeons and Dragons fantasy. It's as like stereotypical as you can get. It's basically if you took that world of Record of Lodoss War, but then made the whole show from the perspective, because that has an elf character, from, I think it's Dieter is the elf from the original run. So made Dieter the main character, and then her human companions die. Parn, I think is the name of the warrior guy. He dies, and now you're left with Dieter in a world years after her group has conquered the big bad, and she's basically left wandering around, aimless, trying to learn more about the world and find, her own humanity and what it means. Like, the show is very philosophical.
Yeah.
It touches on like, what would different lifespans be like? Because the dwarf also lives for a couple hundred years, but he doesn't live like she does. It's not the same. It gets into a lot of themes, but I would say the biggest theme that it covers is like what is important in life and how should you spend your time? And those are both very beautiful themes.
Yeah.
And they're done very well. And the show treats the subject matter with the respect that it deserves. There's no cheap, in my opinion, there's not a lot of cheap laughs,
Yeah.
I'm losing my voice. It's coming. No. I'm doing all right, actually. So there you go. That's my recommendation. Yeah. I got it. Frieren. Beyond Journey's End. I got one more pick. What's your last pick here? Is it your last?
Yes, it is. Let's see. I have 16-bit sensation, Another Layer.
Oh, John, you always... I didn't recognize a single fucking thing on your list, but you recognized a bunch of mine, which I'll say that's encouraging. That's encouraging. What was it? 16-bit something?
16-bit sensation, Another Layer.
All right. Tell me the plot.
So, Konoha is a tired illustrator, and her job is drawing the backs of pointless characters, basically. And the company she works for, or the studio, only works on bargain bin games. They don't work on heavy hitter titles because they think there's too much risk in it. Because what if it's a bad game? So they focus solely on bargain bin games. And Konoha doesn't like that. She doesn't want to draw the backs of characters anymore. She wants to work on something monumental. Like something that'll change the industry. So one day, after work, she goes to this random pawn shop, and she finds all these older video games. And she's looking through them, and she goes, holy crap, these games are cheap. And she's trying to explain to the old woman at the store, hey, these games should definitely be worth more money than you have them, listed at. And she spends hours talking to this old woman about why these games are so great, why they're worth more than she's got on the price tags. And ultimately it ends with this old woman going, well, you seem really passionate about this. Just take them. Consider it a gift. She's kind of taken aback at first. She leaves, and she sits down in this restaurant, and she's going through the games, and she opens one of the cases. She's just going over everything. She closes it, leaves this restaurant, and she goes to walk to where her work is. But the building she comes to isn't her work. Some other video game company.
When you say video games, is it because it says 16-bit sensation? So I'm assuming this takes place during like the Super Nintendo, Sega Genesis era of video games. Is that kind of the idea? It's like 16 bits.
Kind of, yeah.
It's like 2D like era of video games.
It kind of fluctuates.
Okay.
So she is like the year 2023.
Okay, so she starts out working on like Nintendo Switch or PlayStation, apparent like that style of, you know, like that type of video game console. She's developing for those kind of modern stuff.
Yes,
modern hardware.
But I think she's more so like PC. But
God, PC gamer.
Yeah, right.
The worst kind.
But she ends up outside this company that isn't her company. It's a completely different building. It's a lot smaller than it was.
Right.
And she doesn't recognize it. And she looks at the name Alcohol Soft. Ultimately, she ends up going inside, meeting these people, and they end up letting her work on a game. And she finds out she's like, I think it was like 1980 or something. She had traveled back in time. She works on this game with them.
Oh, so she actually travels back in time?
Yes.
Okay.
And it's a little bit deeper than that.
To the 80s, okay.
Yes. And she works on this game with them. And after she finishes it, they're celebrating. And she disappears back to her own time. They're all confused about where she went. She's back home with no idea what the hell just happened. And she looks at her shelf of video games. And there are a couple less there than she remembers having. She looks up the company Alcohol Soft. They no longer exist. She's lost. She has no idea what's happening. She even tried to explain to them that she was a time traveler when she was working with them. Like, they taught her to animate in their original style and make more with less. And through her pursuit of, like, trying to find a way back to them, because she had so much fun making this game, she realizes, like, hey, before I went back to their time, I was looking at the games from that shop. So she goes back to the pawn shop where the old lady was, and it's gone. It doesn't exist.
Of course.
So she's wondering what the hell happened. She opens another game, and she's transported back a couple years later than she had previously visited. And all of them are wondering why the hell she disappeared after helping them with that game. They didn't even have a chance to pay her.
Okay.
She weasels her way back in and helps them work on another game. And again, she disappears after. Like, she solves one of their issues, and then back to her time. And that's when she discovers that the game cases are totally relevant to her time travel. It's all based on the year the game was released. And she can only visit like 5 or 6 more times. Like, travel back in time to visit
based
her
on how
friends.
many games she has left, basically? Yeah.
And she has to be particular about how she opens the cases, because it could be a difference of a year, a couple of months, or 5 years.
So once she travels that game, when she goes back, when does she teleport back? What triggers that?
She opens the case, it glows,
Yeah.
she's back in time.
Okay, and how does she teleport back?
It just happens when she finishes a game.
Oh, okay.
So that part wasn't really
It's not
clear.
really clear.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
So essentially what it is she goes back, she works on these games with them, she helps them solve problems, and she's essentially changing history. She's given up on trying to tell them she's from the future. Well, kind of. She still mentions it and then corrects herself. But she wants to work with them to create the game of her dreams, because she knows she can't do it in her timeline because her boss basically laughs her out of the office. but she keeps changing the timeline, so every time she goes back to her own world, half the games that she had don't exist anymore because of the changes she made in the past. So it becomes this big thing where, like, how much can she meddle without screwing the world up? She also helps them kind of create new technology.
Okay. Because she would know modern techniques and shit like that. Yeah.
And, like, one of them is well aware that she's from the future because she brought her drawing tablet and he saw her artwork.
Right.
And she's
it's
just
it's kind of interesting. I like time travel shenanigans. I'm kind of intrigued.
For me, I'm into it. Mm-hmm. But I'm not.
How many did you watch the whole?
I've watched 6 episodes
Out of,
I think about 12.
okay.
It might still be going. I'm not
Yeah.
sure. But I kind of tapped out because it went from her wanting to create the game of her dreams to, like, she's like, oh, we got to make all this cool merch. And then it gets into, like, hentai pillows and shit. And I'm like, why is this relevant?
Right.
Like,
I would have much rather done an anime where a modern character in a current video games development studio publisher gets teleported back to the early 90s and has to then work with a team to create, like, a video game with the humble, simple technology they had from 3 decades previous. That would have been so much more interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't sound like it's quite that. That's why I'm like,
not quite. I mean, like, some of it's cool. Like,
yeah.
the monumental game she describes to them, they literally have to, like, change their technology to try to keep up. And, like, because they're working on, basically in their timeline, they have just gotten onto Windows.
Okay.
So it can't quite keep up. And, you know, she literally, like, wants all this stuff, like, animation-wise, illustration-wise, and they have to literally basically assemble, like, 8 computers into one computer just to have enough, like, RAM to run the software that she needs so they can make her game a reality. So it's kind of like she's making the future current. It's a little odd. I don't know. I'm kind of lost in my own explanation.
Oh, that's all right. What's the main conflict, though? What is she actually trying to do?
She's just trying to make the game of her dreams.
Okay.
It
sounds like a bit of a mess of a plot. That's why I'm like,
yeah,
it sounds like okay. It doesn't sound like it has a lot of direction.
It's fascinating. Like, some of the stuff they teach her was, like, it's relevant for, like, illustration and shit.
Yeah.
Like, that stuff's cool. Like, educational even. But it's not really...
Do the characters hook you at all, even?
Not overly, no.
Yeah, okay.
Like, you don't really see enough of them. There's some guy in the office that wears, like, I can't even think of the name. Like think like Nacho Libre, the fucking mask.
Oh, the luchador mask.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to think of. He just wears the mask for who knows why.
For whatever, yeah.
The
Just
guy
like
running the
weird
company
quirk.
is fucking useless. Like, he doesn't know anything about, like, game design development. He just created the company because he went, oh, my son likes video games.
So
This
they're
would
all
be
just like
kinda cool.
one-dimensional characters.
Yeah,
kind of
there's
thing.
not really much to them. Like, I mean, her and I guess technically he's sort of her love interest are fascinating together, I guess. But I mean,
It sounds like you're talking yourself out of this anime. It doesn't sound
I'm already kind of out. Second it got into, like, all the ecchi shit, I was kind of like, it's not for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it doesn't sound like you particularly like this anime.
Yeah, I wanted to. It started strong,
Yeah.
but I don't know. The more
Just
I
doesn't
watched,
really
it was
use
just
premise well,
downhill.
Doesn't really have great characters.
It's like,
Just
because
doesn't have
at
much of a
first it was
hook.
like, I want to create this game, and this is how I'm going to do it. And then it just kind of slowly dwindled out. Like, it's burnt out. It's tired. Nah, I don't really have
anything else to add to that?
anything
Yeah,
nice
that's all
to
right.
say
I mean,
about
no,
it.
that's good. Anything else you want to add?
I mean, it's cute. It was a good idea.
It's something that could have been really good.
Yeah, if they did it right.
If they had better pacing and probably a better premise to go with.
Yeah.
Like better actual conflict to go with. Yeah. Better written characters, yada yada. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I only got one pick left, and I don't have much to say about it. Another Netflix. Sorry, folks, it's getting a little bit late now. I'm getting a bit tired. We're at the 3.5 hour mark here. So we went long on this one. I'm not gonna go. I don't have much to say about this. My last pick, another Netflix produced anime, Blue Eye Samurai. Let me guess. This was also on your watch list.
How'd you guess?
Was this on your watch list?
It was, yeah.
I don't have a ton to say about it. It's a very basic premise. We follow the titular character Mizu. Mizu is a what's the word I'm looking for? She's half Japanese, half white. It takes place in feudal Japan. It's in a time when Japan closed off its borders to the rest of the world, and basically like white foreigners were not allowed in the country, except for these four white citizens. Citizens, right? Wrong word. But these four white men, basically, four white men managed to stay inside the country for whatever reason. Okay.
Yeah.
Illegally, they're there illegally, but like the government kind of knows they're there, but they're like supposed to pretend they don't exist. And these four guys are like pseudo warlords / arms dealers. They're not fucking good guys. They like some of them, have their way with women, sexually assault, like, poor prostitutes and shit like that.
So they're just fucked up enough that the country will look the other way.
Kind of idea, yeah. And Mizu is the result of one of those men impregnating her mother, who I believe was a prostitute, but I can't quite 100% remember. And so Mizu is, I wanted to say half-breed, but I mean, that's such a that sounds very offensive to say that, but yeah. She's half Japanese, half I'm just using the term white, but white is so that's too broad. I don't know what the right word to use is, but you know what I'm saying? It could be English, it could be French, it could be fucking Canadian, I guess Canada didn't exist at the time, but North American descent. But for all attempts and for whatever they generalize in the show, it's just white men. Okay. So it's given her, specifically, she looks Japanese, but her defining feature is she has piercing blue eyes, which are unnatural to actual pure Japanese citizens.
Yeah.
Hence the title Blue Eye Samurai. She has a terrible childhood. She's resented by her entire village. She's seen as because they say white devil. This is during that period of extreme racism towards white people, because Japan at this time historically was extremely racist to a large portion of the world, and so they would say things like blue-eyed devil, white devil, all that kind of shit. So they don't like half-breed type people, interracial people. So she has a terrible childhood. She ends up meeting up with her, who becomes kind of a pseudo adoptive father to her. It's this old wise guy who is a blind swordsmith, and under his tutelage, she learns the art of making swords, and she actually learns swordsmanship and becomes a god tier swordsman. And then she decides to go out on a simple quest for revenge. She decides that she is going to find and kill her father. It is a simple tale of revenge. It becomes more convoluted as she meets, because she doesn't know which one of the four, we'll just call them the four devils, the four white devils. She doesn't know which of those men is actually her father. She has no idea. So she's got to pick them off one by one until she actually finds out. But basically, she thinks they're all evil anyway, so she probably is going to end up killing them all regardless. That's where it's a little confusing, a little muddy on her actual, particular intentions.
Yeah.
She meets a couple characters. We get comic relief, big fat guy who's missing hands named Ringo. We get the stoic, proud, and cocky samurai warrior type named Taigen. We get the outspoken princess who is like the daughter of like a powerful member of government, like a lord who has connections to the shogunate, named Akemi, and she's her father just wants her to live a traditional role and literally get married off to someone high up in the government. So she's being used as just like, a piece of like a bargaining chip kind of idea, part of like a transaction, and she's trying to escape that. It's a pretty good show. The story is it's a simple revenge plot, but then it gets a little convoluted and muddy at times. The entire first season focuses on her taking out one of the 4 white devils, the 4 white guys. Who's the villain? I can't remember his name. He's actually really good. He's like a Scottish guy, I believe, and he's got like a thick accent, and he is just a fucking monster. He is like an absolute piece of shit, and it is a good villain. You root for. The characters in the show are good. Mizu, I think, is a strong protagonist. I think it's a basic plot that you've seen and heard a million times before. Like, I don't think there's anything particularly original in this show, you know? It is CG. Remember I talked about Onimusha?
Yep.
It is the exact opposite of Onimusha. This is a very good-looking CG show. It has great choreography. It is stylish as fuck. It's basically like, are you familiar with Kill Bill?
Yep.
So if Kill Bill was a CG anime, it would be this style. Blood goes like psst, like it's the fountain blood, spray blood, very stylized the way that the fights play out, very flashy animation. One of the coolest fucking things it does is it has modern songs that it puts into the show, even though it's like it's that, which is anachronistic because it's like not from that era. But at one point, they play fucking. There's this whole sequence. They play with color. Visually, it's a treat to watch, and they play with color a lot in the show. And at one point, the main character Mizu, she gets drugged, and she's fighting the drug, but because she's still drugged, everything is like wild, and she's hallucinating.
Yeah.
And this giant guy she's fighting literally becomes like a fire-breathing, like demon-looking creature with like fire for eyes. And when she's fighting him, fucking the Metallica song "For Whom the Bell Tolls" starts playing, but it's an amazing fucking Japanese cover that I've never heard before, and it kicks so much fucking ass. So the show is just... It's a fun, dumb show that you shouldn't take super seriously.
Yeah.
And it's just stylish as fuck. And I recommend it. It's a good time. My only problem with the animation is I do feel it's not super smooth. I think the frame rate is not what it should have been. It feels choppy at times. Like, it just... The choreography is really good, but the animation of like the movements is a little choppy. So I feel like the frame rate's off.
Yeah.
Like I don't think they had the budget to do the proper frame rate. I think it needs a little bit more polish. But the style is great, the aesthetic is great, the character designs are great, the direction is great. It's gorgeous to watch. I just think it's a little choppy. And then my other big complaint is it is not grounded at all. The main character, Mizu, she will get like beat to a point of like nigh death, and then like she heals for a couple days, and then she's just out fighting again
So it's just like totally unrealistic.
It's totally unrealistic with like how quickly characters can recover and what you could survive. Like
What if they know like the breathing techniques from Demon Slayer?
It's like that kind of shit. It's exactly what you're talking about. It's that kind of bullshit. No one really does anything like supernatural, but they do things that are inhuman. Where it's like Mizu cuts down hordes of guys. It's Kill Bill. It's that.
Yeah.
It's Kill Bill as a feudal era Japan CG anime. But it's a good time. I do recommend it. I'm not recommending. It's getting a second season, so maybe it can polish itself a little bit better.
Yeah.
But it's solid. It's good.
Maybe it'll be popular enough that they'll have a bigger budget.
Yeah, I know that it got very good reviews. When I saw the trailer, I honestly was a little bit. I thought it was like trying to be a little too hard to be cool.
Yeah.
It's one of those shows where I'm like, oh, you're trying so hard to be cool. There's so much of that shit where it's like everything is flashy and all of our characters are fucking cool. Like, look at how badass our main character is, and she's out to fuck guys up. This is a tale of revenge. It's it is hyper violent and very bloody and shit.
Yeah.
And I was worried it was gonna just have no substance to it, but it does. The voice acting's really good. The dub is really good. Well, it's a North American production, so I actually I think the dub would actually be the Japanese dub. Like, I think it defaults to the English speaking, but it's got great voice acting in it. A lot of celebrity voice actors in it, and they do a really good job. So, recommend it. And with that, that's the end of my list. Why don't we quickly go through our collective lists before this turns into a 4-hour podcast?
Sure thing.
Go ahead. What do you recommend? Or go through your list and then tell us your top pick for the fall 2023, your runner-up, and your bottom pick.
All right. So I have Berserk of Gluttony, Ragna Crismon, Kingdoms of Ruin, Shangri La Frontier, and 16-bit sensation Another Layer.
Yes.
So on top, I have Shangri La Frontier. 100% without a doubt.
Pick. Interesting.
That was by far the best one I watched this entire season.
Of all the ones you said, that's the only one I added to my list, so probably the right choice.
And then second place, I would have to say Berserk of Gluttony. It definitely isn't as good as Shangri La Frontier, but I think it's better than Ragna Crismon. And at the very bottom, I'm putting Kingdoms of Ruin.
Which one was that
That's
again?
the one with the witches and the fucking
right.
castles and the technology.
You mentioned it to me. I already forgot about it. Yeah.
By far the worst one I've seen so far.
All right. There you go. That's Johnny's list there. For me, I talked about Castlevania Nocturne, which I recommend. Undead Murder Farce, which I can't recommend at this time. Captain Laserhawk, a Blood Dragon remix, which I recommend. Firefighter Daigo Rescuer in Orange, which I recommend-ish. Onimusha, which is shit. Pluto, which I highly recommend. Frieren Beyond Journey's End, highly recommend. Blue Eye Samurai, I also recommend. My top pick for the fall 2023 season, unsurprisingly, is Pluto. It is a fucking masterpiece, one of the best animes I've watched in the last decade. Absolutely incredible. Watch it. My runner-up, also unsurprising, Frieren Beyond Journey's End. I'm excited to keep watching it. I'm really enjoying it. I think you're gonna like it. It's really good. And my bottom pick, the thing I like the least, the absolute bottom of the barrel, the shittiest of the shit, Oni fucking Musha. Suck my dick. That show sucked shit. I got nothing to add to that. I already dumped on it enough. It was just crap. So there you go, folks. That covers the fall 2023.
Yeah.
So we'll be back in a couple months to talk about winter 2024. We'll call it 24. I mean, most
of the anime started like in January.
And let's be honest, December was so warm this year. Anyways,
Yeah.
it was hardly even a winter in fucking Canada here.
Yeah.
It was not much of a winter at all. I haven't even made my list yet for the winter. Have you?
I've actually already started like 3 anime.
Oh, you fuck. I December was so busy for me. I didn't have time to get anything going.
Yeah.
I am overdue. I got to sit down and make a list, and I'll have to marathon a few.
Well, I had a bit of an advantage because I've been sick the last like 2 weeks. So I had a lot of time.
You had that home court advantage.
Yeah. And I actually took you up on one of your recommendations, Cyberpunk. Phenomenal.
So good.
It was fantastic. I watched it in like a day.
It was incredible, right?
Fucking by far like one of the top tier I have seen.
Gorgeous anime, incredible pacing, incredible characters, fantastic story, heartbreaking ending.
Yeah, no, that one actually.
That hit.
I don't get emotional with shows often, but I had to sit there in silence for a little while.
Yeah, that ending. I know. When I first watched that ending, the ending's bittersweet. First time I watched it, I hated the ending because I like. This is a spoiler. I'm not telling what happens, but I like happy endings, and
Yeah.
it's half a happy ending. It's a bittersweet ending, those are harder for me to swallow. I actually I recently rewatched it. I like the ending better now. I accept it more.
Yeah.
It's not what I wanted to happen, but I get it's how it had to be there, and thematically it makes more sense. Yeah, it's a masterpiece. Yeah, Cyberpunk Edge Runners is way better than it has any right to be. Yeah, it's phenomenal. So there you go, folks. That was all kinds of picks. We will be back in a few months, and we will go over our winner picks, whatever the fuck those are going to be. I haven't even started making that list, so that's going to be interesting. Until next time, thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to listen to the audio-only version of this podcast, you can find the links below in the description of this video if you're watching us on YouTube. We are available on everywhere you get podcasts, so that's Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon, whatever the fuck. You can find us under TuneIn Media or just type in AnimEH. Anime is spelt with an H on the end of the word anime, as in A, because we're fucking Canadian. And I got nothing else. Until next time, thank you.
See ya.